Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I wanted to give myself a little bit of retrospective advice to my sort of 17-year-old self. At 17 I was just coming out of college for creative media studies. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the world. I didn't really know what my career was going to be. I didn't know what my future looked like. And you start off and you think like you've got so much ahead of you. And then as your years go by, I'm not saying like as if I'm old, I'm only 25, but like I'm no longer 17, I'm nearly a decade into my adulthood now. And I just sort of thought it would be good to sort of try and figure out what I would say to that version of myself. If like he just came around the corner and he said, "Oh, future Josh, what wisdom can you give unto me?" And so the first one I would sort of say is, don't worry so much. Just keep trying to like find new little jobs, just do new little things, say yes to all the opportunities that you're going to say no to, because even if they don't lead anywhere, they're going to be an experience and they're going to be something that you can take with you into the future. Then I would probably say sort of focus on getting that camera sort of first, stop using the sort of equipment that you're borrowing off other people, because you can't do much with it because you're so scared to actually break it or to use it in the wrong way or anything like that. So you end up limiting yourself. And I'd just say to him, like, look, even if it's just your phone is a good camera, it's a good enough camera. Like this phone here, say it's basically the same phone that I had back then, but just a newer model. But even back then it had 15 megapixel, whatever, it did 1080p, did all the stuff that's required. You see so many people that film on their phones and you can turn it into a style, even if it looks a little bit lo-fi, you can make that into something like, these videos aren't my best looking videos, but they're the ones that seem to have popped off because I think people engage with the content that's inside these videos. So that's what I would say, is just make engaging stuff and stop trying to be such an artiste. That's what I was always trying to do back then. I was trying to say something profound, and I didn't have anything profound to say. And I think most 17-year-olds think they have something profound to say, and basically every single one of those 17-year-olds is wrong because they don't have enough life experience. They haven't been through anything that they haven't been through enough hardship, or maybe they've been through some hardship, but they haven't figured out how to extrapolate lessons from it yet, and they're still finding their own way. And I would just say, just make stuff about what you know rather than trying to learn about something that you don't, because you'll figure that stuff out anyway through life, and life will just teach you these lessons and you can apply those lessons to your creative works. Because I was always going to go into making stuff, even if I never found an audience, even if I never found anyone. I have a drive to make stuff and just to create shit. And I know that's very pretentious to say, "Ooh, I always had a drive, I always wanted to create," and it's like, oh, shut the fuck up. But I did, I actually did. Ever since I was a kid, I was writing these little novels that I would give into the library and stuff like that, and I'd bound them in little bits of string, and then I would hand it off to the library and say, "Can you put this on the bookshelf, please?" And then they put it on the bookshelf, and probably stayed there for a few months, and then they got rid of it. Which is fair enough, because those books were a load of shit. They were written by a 7-year-old. I mean, what can you expect? But yeah, what else would I say to 17-year-old me who is coming into the future? Don't drink, don't smoke, all the basic stuff like that. Everyone knows not to do that, but when you're 17, it's very easy to make that stuff feel like it's cool, and the people who don't engage with that stuff aren't cool, they're squares, and it's no, they're not. They're just as cool as you, they're just as interesting as you, they have just as much to say as you. I think everyone pretty much has just as much to say as everyone else. It's just whether they have the capacity or the confidence to. And some people can't do this whole going out into the middle of nowhere and talking shit for 10 minutes, and some people can, and some people can't, but they'll try anyway. And that's fine. Everyone should give it a go. And even if they find out it's not for them, I think you should give this a go. And that's another thing I would say to my 17-year-old self, is start doing these videos earlier. And I think actually that's leading into what I wanted to say to my 17-year-old self, who was working on this thing called Morrison Productions, and I did a lot of these really crappy video essays, kind of meme-y, piss-takey sort of things. I did one about the secret of the sugar cubs, and how the sugar cubs, they're these little Facebook stickers, right? I had it there was this grand conspiracy. They came to Earth, and the CIA was experimenting on them and doing all kinds of crazy shit, satanic sort of stuff. And I did one about the crying with laughter emoji, and like how that was like a curse upon humanity, and like how they're infesting everyone, and if you get infected by it, it's like you've been bitten by a zombie virus. And I did stuff like that, and I gave them up because I took a job in a fucking warehouse, and I would say to myself, like, you know, just keep making them, just don't stop. Like, I feel like I ran out of ideas and I stopped because of that. But I would say to them, like, who cares if you've run out of ideas? You'll get some new ideas. But if you sit and do nothing, waiting for the new ideas to come, you will have lost the groove. And I tried to do it again a couple of months later, and I had lost the groove, and I made 3 videos, and then I stopped again. And then a few months after that, I made another 3 videos, and I stopped again. But I was starting to develop a semi-audience. It wouldn't have grown nearly as fast as this, but if I had stuck with it, I could have like probably gotten monetized. And you know, even if I was only making like £20 a month or whatever off it, that's like a phone bill covered or something like that. That's your transport to and from work for like a week sorted, you know? And that would have been pretty nice. And it would have given me a drive to keep making more stuff, and probably I would have expanded and my development as a creative a lot faster, and probably been in a much better position now if I hadn't given up. So yeah, don't give things up like that. Like, I had a lovely little community, and I forgot about it, and I just didn't keep it up. I didn't engage with it enough, and that's why I'm so dedicated to doing the one video day thing. And like, until New Year's Day, like a few days ago, I was doing it twice a day. And I was so dedicated to doing it twice a day, and I don't want to ever stop or miss a day, because I learned my lesson from the fact that I failed with that Morrison production thing. I could have developed something, and I didn't. You know, what else would I sort of say? You know, you'll feel depressed sometimes. You'll always feel down. You'll always get yourself down. You'll feel like the world's on top of you. You feel like you don't know where to go. And a nice little motto that I like is, it's from The Exorcist, and then Mark Kermode, the reviewer, likes to say it a lot. It says, everything will always be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end. And to me, that is like the ethos of my existence. Is like, sometimes things are sort of shit, you know, sometimes things don't work out for you, sometimes things are just kind of crap, but it's only temporary. And even if the nice times are only a mini oasis, cherish those nice times, because you know they're not always going to be there. Like, and then eventually, like, once you get to that end, right, and everything feels good, then a new story will begin, and you know, it won't be the end anymore, and you won't feel content anymore. Like, right now, I feel the happiest that I've ever felt. Like, the past few months have been easily the best time of my life, and I know that's not going to last forever. I know that that's going to eventually, there'll be a new depression, there'll be a new thing to catastrophize about, there'll be new anxieties to figure out. And you know, I'll just be able to say to myself, this isn't the end. You know, there's places to go from here, and there's development that needs to be done. And eventually I will find a new end, and that will last for a little bit, and I'll find a new best time of my life. Maybe one that will be even better than this. And then that will stop, and then that cycle will continue and continue and continue until I die. And I think if you can do that, if you can just keep conscious of your trajectory in life, you will get somewhere pretty interesting, even if you don't find like objective success, even if you don't find like, you know, monetary success or social success. But if you can find your own success where you can be proud of yourself for something that you've done, something that you've achieved, even if no one else gives a shit about it, you can be content and be happy with that. And that's what I would say to myself as a 17-year-old is, like, I was semi-proud of the things that I did, but no one really gave a shit about them, so I kind of downplayed the fact I was proud of them, which made me just sort of feel like I wasn't doing anything of worth. But, you know, I was, even if they weren't like great like films, even if they weren't great bits of video or anything like that, or any, you know, there was terrible music and all that sort of stuff. Why should it matter? Because like that stuff wouldn't exist if not for me. And even if it only reached one other person, even if it didn't reach anyone else, the potential for it to reach one other person, that is something that you can't buy with money. You know, that's only something that you can buy with brain power and putting some of your own conscience on the line for the sake of creativity. And yeah, I know my 17-year-old self wouldn't take any of this stuff to heart. They wouldn't be interested in what I have to say. It'd be like, you know when your parents tell you don't do something because I made that same mistake. You sort of hear them, but you don't listen to them, and you go and make the mistake anyway, because you have to make the mistakes. You have to like put your foot in the mud so that you can realize that mud is not nice to be like coated in. You have to throw yourself in the ocean in order to get wet. And then you need to dry yourself off. And you know when you dry yourself off after a bath, and then like you've got your dressing gown on, like you know, maybe you have some soup or something like that, with some nice toast. That's really nice. And you want to get to that point, right? But you're never going to get to that point if you don't chuck yourself into some like freezing cold water. So, you know, bad times are always going to happen, bad times will always come, but don't let them get in your way. And that's essentially what I would say to my 17-year-old self, because he let that sort of thing get to his head a lot. You know, I was always stressing about things I didn't need to stress about. I was always worrying about what people thought of me when I didn't need to. And, you know, I'm an all right person at the end of the day. Like, I'm not anything special, but I'm all right. So, you know, I think you're pretty all right as well, whoever you are. I don't know you personally, but I'm sure you're decent. So just remember that. Know that you're good. Know that you've got a good heart and you've got a reason to be here. You've got a purpose on this world. And even if you don't know what that is yet, you're on the path to figuring it out, and that's your current purpose, is figuring it out. And then once you figure it out, your new purpose is to, you know, actualize it. So yeah, please let me know in the comments below what you would say to your 17-year-old self. Maybe you are 17 and you don't know what you're going to do, and you're worried about like making the same mistakes as like your older brother or sister or whatever. But you know, there's a long road ahead of you, and it's going to be all right, because everything will always be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care and bye-bye. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about New Year's, because New Year's is coming up quite soon. And you've probably got some little resolutions you want to do. Maybe you want to stop smoking. Maybe you want to start going to the gym. Maybe you want to eat healthier, go on a diet. Maybe you want to see your friends and family more, like give more time to your kids or whatever, right? And you know, you're waiting for the 1st of January for your life to change. Why can't you change your life now? You obviously want to if you've set the resolution, so I don't see why you can't just do it now. Like obviously there's some kind of merit to the idea of, you know, it's a new chapter. The new year is coming, so you want to use the fact that it's a new chapter to be a new you. And I get that, and I've done like plenty of times like a New Year's resolution, but what ends up happening is you start maybe the first day, maybe you do all right the second day, the third day you start to get a bit sick of it, then the fourth day you're like, oh, okay, give up, right? If you're going to the gym, you'll be lucky if you manage to go for 2 weeks, right? If you're trying to stop smoking, you'll be puffing again by like, you know, Thursday, right? Just start now, because if you want to stop these bad habits, or if you want to start these good habits, why are you waiting for it? I don't get that, right? But then I kind of do, because I've done it as well, and it's a stupid idea, right? The idea of a New Year's resolution is just inherently ridiculous. What's the good about the idea is it encourages people to be better and to improve themselves. That's good. But what's stupid is the idea that we need to wait for a specific day. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to start like going to the gym, but only after April the 23rd. Why? What happens on April the 23rd? Oh, well, something happens. It's a new chapter. Like, the only reason that the 1st of January is a new year is because of our current calendar. In China, they think that like the 15th of February or whatever is a new year. I think in the Islamic calendar, it's something like August. Probably completely wrong on that. But you get my point. The idea of a year doesn't mean anything, because it's not like the Earth gets hotter and colder based on how far away it is from the sun and where it is on the orbit from the sun. That's what I always thought. But then I realized, well, hang on, Australia is apparently winter there when it's summer over here, and vice versa. And, you know, it's not like the Earth is further away from the sun, like millions of miles further away from the sun in on the southern hemisphere, but not on the top hemisphere. It's just ridiculous. So what I think you should do is just start doing your little New Year's resolution now, because the idea of a year is just pointless. The only reason we have it is for bookmarking purposes, and your life doesn't revolve around some like guy's schedule that you came up with this 400 years ago. And that's only based off of an adjustment to the Julian calendar, which is like 2,000 years old or something like that. And the only reason they did the little change is because the idea of a year and documenting the year isn't like inherently natural. That's why we have to come up with like a new like leap years, and that's why like on centuries, each century it isn't a leap year. But if it's a century that like can be divided by 4, then it can be a leap year. It's ridiculous. We've got so many little things here to try and work this out. So the idea of a year itself isn't inherently natural. So stop trying to adjust your body clock to this unnatural thing, and just start doing the thing that you want to do, that you know will be good for you. Just start doing it now. I don't see why you can't. Why can't you start, like, you know, going to the gym now? If anything, start going now. You'll beat all the people, the crowds that will come in on the 1st of January. Don't go to the gym on the 1st of January. It's a nightmare, right? Don't quit smoking on the 1st of January. Quit smoking now on the 28th of December. Just do it. I don't really understand why you can't just do that now, rather than just, you know, instead of having to wait. Because say you fuck up, right? Say you get to the 5th of January and you're trying to quit smoking and then you smoke again. Wait, well, I guess 350 days of being a smoking addict until I can quit smoking again. No. Just because you've had one thing happen to you, it doesn't mean that, you know, you have to just give up forever. It's the same thing with all these sort of addictions that you try and break. Your brain kind of forces you to sort of go, it manipulates you into going, oh, well, I fucked up once, so I might as well just fuck up entirely. You know, it's the same sort of thing of like, I can't help like the entire universe. I can't solve every problem in the world, so why should I sort this one problem out over here? Why should people bother? That same attitude, you know that people have that attitude, particularly like I've seen it with like, I don't know, vegan stuff. It's like, well, you know, we can't end every problem. You know, there's still people starving in the world. And it's like, well, hang on. What, we need to solve every issue in the world, or we just don't bother solving any of them? It's the same attitude that people with addictions have. And I find that really weird, right? And I know now the comment section is going to be full of vegan shit and like people debating about vegan stuff. And it's like, don't. I'll make a video about that and you can do your little debates in that video, okay? Right? That fair enough for you, right? Because this video is about New Year's resolutions. So what I want you to do, if you are going to leave a comment about what resolution you are going to have. What kind of thing do you plan on doing in the new year? And why are you having to wait for the new year for that to happen? Is it because you like having a drink now and you want to keep having like Chardonnay until that point when you've decided that you are no longer allowed it? Or is there some kind of underlying kind of like, but I don't want to really quit. So like if you're putting it off, then you don't actually want to do this thing. If you don't actually want to do this thing, you're going to fail. Same way someone who doesn't want to run a marathon can't do it at gunpoint, because I suppose I could do it at gunpoint, but you get the point. They're not going to do a great job of it because they don't want to. They're not interested in it. They're not passionate about it. That's the same reason that like people who work a retail job don't do a particularly good job. That's why your customer service is crap, because they don't give a shit. They're not like, there's no incentive for them to actually care about the thing. They don't have some kind of love and deep passion about shelf stocking, I meant. You know, they don't have that. So it's that kind of thing. I know this video is a little bit rambly and a little bit all over the place, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that you should just, it's a very simple point, so I don't know why I have to keep reiterating it in various ways, but I feel like each time I reiterate it, maybe it will like sink into you a little bit more. Maybe the first few times you heard it, you were like, okay, whatever. But now you're like, oh, maybe he's on something. Or maybe you've clicked off the video by now, I don't know. But whatever, I'm just trying to encourage you to just start now. You know, you don't have to quit smoking tomorrow. You can quit smoking now. But I know you want to have a fag, like, you know, this evening. I know you want to keep your little ritual going, you know. I know you want to quit drinking or you want to start going to the gym, but I know that you don't want to go to the gym today. You want to go to the gym in some mystical tomorrow that's never going to come, right? Because tomorrow is always tomorrow and today is always today. Even though I go to sleep and I wake up again, right, and 24 hours have passed, doesn't mean it's tomorrow, it's still today, right? Because tomorrow always means the day that's ahead of today, right? So just start today and don't wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow will never ever come, okay? That's important. So thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Hope you managed to get something useful out of it. I know it's a little bit like repetitive, but you know, it's an important thing. I think it's one where you need to be coerced into it a little bit, I think, because once you start and you start doing it, you're gonna get something kind of killer out of it. Oh, yo, text me where you'll be in 30 minutes. Home. There we are. Sorry about that. Shouldn't be leaving text in the middle of that. That would be my New Year's resolution, to stop like texting people in the middle of these videos. Yeah, in general, thank you very much for watching these videos. And my New Year's resolution is to do one video a day, which is actually like if you were like, I don't know, say drinking or smoking, whatever, it'd be like the equivalent of like, oh yeah, in the new year, I want to actually drink more. I want to smoke more in the new year. So basically my New Year's resolution is to be a little bit lazier, right? In general, which sounds really shit, but you know what? Like you're gonna, like there'll still be lots of videos and stuff. I'm still gonna upload daily, but yeah. This video is kind of a mess, it's a bit of a ramble, but I do hope that you start doing that New Year's resolution now, because if you do it now, you're more likely to do it like in the new year. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and take care. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about thought processes and how different people have different thought processes, and how if you can figure out what your thought process is, you can kind of harness that to your advantage. So I'll start off by telling you what my thought process is, how my brain likes to think, and you can see if that's how yours thinks, or maybe you think in a different way. Because I know there's two main modes of thought. There's the mode of thought where you think a sentence and then you say the sentence, and so you think in kind of words, like there's a little voice that tells you what your thoughts are. And then there's the type of thought where you think more in abstractions and you think in ideas and concepts, but you don't necessarily put them down in words. And some people do a bit of both. I'm much more of I think in sentences. So the way I think of it is, there's the me that does the thinking, and then there's the me that responds to those thoughts. So like say, I'm thinking I need to go to the shop and get some food and get this, this, and this, right? So my thinking part of the brain will tell me, right, Josh, you need to go to Lidl and get this, this, and this. And then I would basically respond to that and go, okay, I'm gonna get ready. And so then I, put my coat on, put my jumper on, whatever, and I make sure I've got my wallet, that kind of thing. And that stuff is all like, I'm not thinking, okay, get the wallet, get this, but I might say it out loud to myself, just like, here's the wallet, okay, got it, got that, okay, got my keys, okay, yeah. But I wouldn't say think like putting the jumper on, okay, I need to put jumper on, right? So different things are just like automatic like that. And some things you kind of just go, right, I've said it to myself in order to sort of enforce it in my brain, right? And if you've got more complicated sort of ideas, like say I'm trying to figure out a larger kind of thing that requires some different points of view and that kind of thing, my brain might make up little, not characters, but like extra voices to sort of help it along the way. So I've got the main voice that is like the thing that talks to me. And then say if I'm trying to work out something to do with the channel, I might have like the me that's trying to think that sort of like creative sort of stuff, and then I might have more the business sort of side of things, and those two kind of have a little dialogue. So I'm thinking, right, I need to do this and then go out and do these videos, and then when I get back I'm going to sort this out, and then my brain the other side of my brain's going, okay, what are the videos about? And then that side of my brain's going, okay, well I need to get 3 videos sort of done in this session, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and ask this guy, so what kind of stuff are you thinking about, what's kind of coming to mind? And it might say like, I want to do one on music, I want to do one on film, and I want to do one on like general motivation, right? And it will sort of come up with like ideas on what ways to tackle that, and what ways to actually, engage with those ideas, and so on and so forth. And then, if it's a really big topic, or say if I'm like not, because I'm not always the happiest person in the universe. If I'm say quite unhappy, I can almost be like a courtroom of different things where I'm trying to figure out an idea and I'm debating with myself, and different voices do the different points of view. And now I'm sounding like a bit of a mental case, I know, but everyone I think thinks in various different ways, and some people might do the voices in the head sort of thing, which for me isn't like a negative thing at all. It's actually quite helpful, because it's sort of, right, okay, so this, and at the end of the day I might lay down, I sort of reminisce on the day, what went right, what went wrong, what am I going to do tomorrow, how am I going to improve on what I did today, how can I fix my schedule, how can I do this, and so on and so forth. And the part of the brain that actually reciprocates the information that my brain is giving to myself via exposure to the wider world is kind of saying, right, you've done this wrong, but you did this right, so try and do a bit more of this tomorrow and a bit less of that, okay? And then I'll kind of go, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense, and then I'll try and think of this and that kind of thing. Or say if I'm trying to figure out a tech, like I need to text someone something, right? I might think, okay, right, I will be there at about 6 o'clock, and then that brain part that I'm talking about that talks to me kind of goes, right, am I actually going to get there at 6, or do you think maybe I should say 6:30 because I need to get the bus there, and then if there's a delay on that bus, that might mean that I, get delayed by a little bit and I might miss that bus, and then because I know that route's a little bit like dodgy, and the traffic can get quite a big there around like 5:30 sort of thing. So maybe I should sort of say 6:30. And then, the other side of my brain will go, oh, well, okay, well, let's try and figure out, can we leave earlier? What do we need to do before we leave? What do we need to do before we leave? And I'll kind of think, right, well, I need to have some food, I need to export a couple of videos, I need to do this and that, I need to have a little bit of a clean around because I don't want to come back to a messy sort of house, that kind of thing. And it will go, okay, let's tell him 6:30. Yeah, okay, let's tell him 6:30. And that's been a little collaboration between my brain doing the logistics and my brain that sort of is responding to those logistics. Say if you're having a really bad day and your brain's kind of working against you, and your brain's kind of going, oh, you're a little bit shit, you you really fucked that. You really shouldn't have said that. That was a really stupid. And I'll kind of go, yeah, I know. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I know it was pretty bad. And then that part of the brain will go, well, look, man. And then I'll try and actively think something positive. If my brain is getting too negative, I actively try and think something positive. So it'll be like, okay, well, look. It's good that you had this little negative interaction that was a little bit awkward, because it makes for maybe a funny story, or maybe it will teach you how to go about this kind of conversation in the future, or whatever, And that is quite useful, having those different perspectives, because I can tap into different perspectives as and when I need. So for instance, say if I'm thinking something and in my head I'm constructing the sentence, right? I might be thinking, today was really... And then my brain might activate the word stressful, right? Which means maybe subconsciously I feel stressed. So as I'm thinking the sentence, my subconscious, the part that usually responds to things, has said stressful. I don't want to sit there and think to myself, today was a really stressful day, because that will actualize the stress, that will make it feel more stressful than it maybe actually was. So maybe I'll replace that word with hard or challenging or productive or something that's kind of gives a bit more of a positive kind of thing, so that I can just put this thought, this negative thought or whatever it is, to rest and bury it under some positivity, because you're a bubbling sea of negativity, and all you can do is just sail the seas of positivity and try and not drown in all the negativity and get eaten by the negative octopus. Or whatever it is, or however it is you want to think about that. I don't think about it like that. I think about it in different ways, and the way that I think about it evolves. And sometimes I used to try and make little processes and ways of thinking about it for the long term. And I realize that doesn't work, because if I'm having to force that means that it's not really what I intrinsically want to do. So that's why I do this now, is that if I immediately think a negative word, I try and replace it with positive words, just so that my brain activates more positive energy. And the more positive energy I can activate, I think the nicer a person I am to be around, and the nicer I am to talk to, and that kind of thing. And I think, because you don't want to be stuck with a Debbie Downer down the pub and they're just talking about miserable shit all day. And it's just what good does engaging with all this negativity do? Because yeah, the negative stuff is real, the negative things are there, and you should, be conscious of that fact, and you should be open with yourself with the fact that you have this negative thing, but don't dwell in the negativity. Don't sit there and just bathe in this negativity, because it's not necessary. And it's like bathing in fucking mud, maybe sure it feels nice for a little bit if it's warm mud, but you're going to get out of that mud eventually, and you're going to be all muddy, and you're going to need to have a shower anyway. And the shower in this sense is positivity. So say you're stressed at work, say you're going to work every day, 6 days a week, and you're working 60-hour weeks, and it's you're trying to provide for your family, and it's you're behind on your rent and your bills, and everything's sort of getting on top of you, right? It's very easy to kind of stress and catastrophize about that stuff. And you should obviously worry about these things, because they are things that need to be worried about, because you don't want your fucking family to go without, because you're a good person. So what you kind of do is just try and engage as much of the positivity as you can, because some of the negativity is real and needs to be considered, but some of it isn't, and some of it is just because you're already in the negative headspace, so you're putting more negativity in there because you're already in this negative headspace. So it's very easy to just allow the negativity to fester and linger. When certain things don't need to have that negative response. So that's why people end up taking out their frustrations on their friends and their family, and that's not fair on them. And you know, you need to have outlets. You need to have ways of getting your anger out and getting your frustrations out in the world. Like, that's why I like going to the gym. I like to run on the treadmill and just like, almost just like, and you know, when I first started going to the gym, I was very, very kind of down, and I used it as a way of getting my anger out, just like, you know, doing the boxing thing, punching the whatever it is, you know, the bag, boxing bag, right? And you know, you kind of punch that, and that kind of really helps you to sort of figure out like, oh God, yeah. And then you come out of it and you feel so much more relieved and so much happier as a result. And you know, you ever walk around and you're just like, God, I'm really depressed. Or, you know, maybe the opposite is, God, I feel so good right now, you know? And it's good to, when you hear that little voice or when you feel that emotion, be honest with yourself about why and try and deconstruct what's causing you to feel this way, whether it's positive or negative, because it's important to know why you feel the feelings that you do, because your feelings are always valid no matter what they are. Even if it's like a very negative feeling, it is valid in the sense that you are feeling it, which means you need to do something about it, whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, it means that you need to like sit inside this positivity and embrace this positivity and live this positivity. And if it's negative stuff, you need to figure out what's causing negativity. Why do I feel like this? Is there some kind of life external circumstance that I could maybe resolve? Or is it an internal depression that I need to wrestle with my brain to sort of figure out? Because your brain isn't always going to be on your side. Sometimes your brain works against you. Sometimes, you know, you ever walk into a room and forget why you're in there, or you know, you're lying in bed and you're like, I don't want to get up, but you know you need to. And all these kind of different things is your brain working against you, and you can't force your brain to work with you. All you can do is encourage it, and all you can do is just try and allow your brain to feel like it's in a safe space within your own mental capacity, where you can feel the feelings that you need and not judge yourself, and just go through life trying to be as unjudgmental as possible, because judgment is a negative thing, and it's festering in that pit of mud, and you want to avoid that, and you want to try and think happiness and think happy stuff. And if you can do that, then you're doing something right. And if you might not know what you're doing right, but it's up to you to try and figure it out, because it'll be unique to you. And if you're feeling something negative, then you need to figure that out as well, because it'll be unique to you. And no amount of YouTube videos telling you what to do or what routine to take on is going to fix it, because it's up to you and your brain and your heart to all work together like the numbskulls to try and figure themselves out and figure out what to do. So yeah, I think that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching this one. Let me know in the comments how you think in your conscious mind. Do you think in abstractions? Do you think in images? Do you think in that kind of thing? Because I don't really think in images. I can't because apparently some people think an image and they can like see the image almost like in their mind, which I can't relate to that. Like if I'm gonna sit and think about Milan, I can't, like no pictures are coming to mind. I know what Milan looks like, obviously, because I've been there, and I know what the streets look like, and I know what it all looked like, but I'm trying to think of it, and I can't actually like image it, picture it in my mind, right? But I do know what it looked like, and I could recall it, and I could like describe it to you. I could describe the tall buildings and like the metro thing with the big shiny M, and the way that in the supermarkets they had like all sorts of different aisles. Like they had a lot of fish aisles in their supermarkets, and just like dumb little stuff like that, or like how the side streets have a lot more like tall buildings with like these kind of big overhang sort of things. I'm very bad at describing this sort of stuff, but I know what I'm talking about, and I know the image that is coming to mind, right? And it's the same with your brain. It might work in a different way. Your brain might do something totally different from mine, and that's good, because that shows the variety of humanity, that we can all come in so many different shapes and sizes, and we can all think in so many different ways. Because if there's only one way of thinking, then every philosopher would just agree with one another, and if that was the case, the world would be fucking boring, because there's questions to answer, and questions being answered is, you know, a lot of fun. Maybe it's not the point of life, but it's a brilliant little waste of time. So yeah, let me know how you think. What's your conscious thought process? Do you think in sentences? How do you think the sentences? Do you have like multiple voices? Do you have one? Do you respond to yourself and have little conversations with yourself? Do you talk out loud maybe to help your thoughts actualize a little bit more? All kinds of things like that. There's so many different ways, and I'd love to hear from you about how you think. So thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and this is a bit of a hard video to make because it's about a very controversial subject, and I'm not going to please everyone with this, and you know, all that standard disclaimer sort of stuff. Vegans, right? Now, I'm not a vegan, but I was raised vegetarian. Right? I was born 1999, and I was vegetarian until 2016. So it was the way I was raised. And, you know, I'm kind of thankful for it because it made me be able to live without meat if I choose to. But now that I'm not a vegetarian anymore, I can have a bit of meat if I want, but I don't have vast amounts of meat, really. Like, I might buy a pack of bacon once a month. I might buy, like, some smoked salmon. Might have a burger if I go out to a restaurant or, like, something like that. I don't really eat McDonald's or Burger King or anything like that, but, you know, I had a Big Mac just to have one, and they're not that good. And, you know, I do like meat, but it's not the best thing ever. I don't think it's the tastiest thing in the universe. And so I feel like, say if veganism was just enforced on everyone, personally, I wouldn't be missing very much. I mean, I like a steak, I like some bacon, they're all right, you know. They're good foods. I don't think they're my favourite foods. I'm not someone that, like, I still eat a lot of the Quorn sort of stuff. Quorn's like a meat substitute. And when I was growing up, it was the only meat substitute. Now you've got all sorts, like Beyond Burgers, and like every supermarket has their own brand sort of version of, you know, non-meat sort of things. And an argument that's used against vegans is, oh, well, if you're vegan, why do you want to try and replace meat? And it's like, a lot of vegans aren't like saying that meat doesn't taste good. Like, I think a lot of vegans would agree that, like, bacon's nice, steaks are nice, right? But they disagree on a moral level with, you know, the idea of farming an animal, factory farming, industrialized factory farming. When I was trying to search for my first, like, proper paid job, I was on Indeed, which is like a job searching website, and I saw a listing for a job called a chicken sexer. And that kind of attracted me because I just thought, sexer, I wonder what that is. So, and it also paid like twice as much as all the other jobs that I was looking at. So I thought, okay, maybe that'd be interesting. I could be a chicken sexer. So I looked up what that actually means, and what a chicken sexer does is, so they stand at a conveyor belt, and there's a load of baby chicks that come in. And basically what they do is they pick up a chick, they shove its finger up its arsehole, and then they figure out from that if it's a boy or a girl. And if it's a girl, they plonk it back on the conveyor belt. And if it's a boy, then they throw it into this grinder thing, which just kills them instantly, turns them into mulch. And they just do that. They do that every day, all day, for probably like 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I looked at that and I thought, Jesus, that's grim. And I just tried to imagine myself in that environment doing that sort of thing. Could I do that? Even like, because I like chicken, I like the taste of it. It tastes quite nice, you know? I don't think it's the most interesting meat in the universe or anything like, but it's nice little food, especially put some paprika on it and you fry it, it's quite nice. But I just thought, oh God, this is awful, that. The idea of doing that for a job, you know? And then I started thinking about, you know, the fact that I'd recently stopped being a vegetarian, because this is like 2017, I stopped being a vegetarian the year before. And I kind of thought, maybe I should go back to it, because, you know, I wasn't raised vegetarian, I don't think necessarily for moral reasons. There was a bit of moral, a little bit of diet, a little bit of everything, right? And it was just the way that I grew up. And, you know, I occasionally would have the urge to try a bit of meat. I tried one of those pepperami fucking things that school kids would have, and I just thought it was disgusting. I didn't understand why anyone would want one. But I'm sure if I grew up with meat, I would like them, and I'd feel nostalgia for them, but I don't. And, you know, I feel like when people make the argument that, ooh, vegans think they are morally superior, like, I kind of think that they are morally superior, because, right, so eating an animal does involve killing an animal, right? Whether you do it or not. Either you hunt the animal and you kill it, which I don't really have a massive problem with. Like, I'd rather not. I don't particularly want to shoot a deer between the eyes and then feast on its carcass. But I don't like have a moral issue with that, because that kind of is part of nature. But I do have an issue with industrialized factory farming. Like the idea that, you know, you see any of the footage from inside these sort of farms and it's grim stuff. It's not fun to look at, and it kind of ruins your appetite. Like, I wouldn't recommend watching any of that sort of stuff while you're eating some meat, because like if you don't feel a little bit repulsed and want to kind of put down your fork, I don't know, does it say something about your morals? Like, because there's various arguments against veganism, one of which is, well, you're causing loads of death anyway from insects, and plants can feel pain, and, you know, all the insects that are like incinerated from the farming of wheat and stuff like that. But then, you know, how do they feed the animals until they get slaughtered? Well, they feed them on grain and stuff, and they need to grow the grain, so those insects are going to get killed anyway. So there's less insects being killed, and plants can feel pain. I mean, I'm sure they can, right? But I think reducing the suffering overall is a good thing. And then maybe in 100, 200 years or so, we can work on that problem of figuring out, you know, plants feeling pain. Is it right to just uproot a plant and just like rip it apart and eat it? You know, we could sort that out after the fact. Maybe do one issue at a time. And I feel like a lot of people want to just solve every issue at the same time. And if you can't solve everything at once, then there's no point in solving anything. And that always frustrates me a little bit. And I don't know, I've been thinking about going vegan again for probably about a year and a half. And I've sort of gone like maybe a couple months without eating meat. Not like I quit meat or anything, I don't even really notice it. I just stopped buying it, and then I wouldn't say I relapse either on meat. I just kind of have it if I go out to a restaurant or something, or I might like walk through Lidl and I think, oh, I fancy some bacon, and I'll get some, and you know, that kind of thing. And so I'm not a vegan, but I do kind of respect vegans and think that they are morally superior. They've got their moral ducks more in a row than I do, right? Because I can acknowledge the horrors that I'm taking part in, and yet I still continue to be complicit in them. And I still engage with this industry that causes untold suffering. You know, the deaths from chickens alone is like in the billions per year, something like that. I think there's a website where you can stay on it, and it will like tick up every time an animal gets killed, and it's just like tick 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 tick, and you know, you stay on the website for a minute, and like all the counters for like basically every animal are in the millions, apart from like quite niche things like whales and stuff like that, and camel. Apparently you can eat camel, and that's quite a like common thing to eat. I don't know. It's a hard subject to tackle, this, because I know that I'm not going to please everybody. I'm probably going to annoy the vegans by, you know, being aware of their issues whilst not joining them in, you know, not eating meat anymore, because I'm continuing to be complicit in this industry. And I'm not going to please the meat eaters either, the carnies, as vegans like to call them. Right? I'm not going to be in their good books either, because I'm basically sort of saying that they're morally inferior to these knobheads over here that are apparently loud and like won't shut up about how they're vegans. But I've met vegans, and to be honest, it never really comes up unless, like, you know, it comes up naturally in a conversation, and even then it doesn't last very long. You know, you sort of go, oh, no, I can't have that. Oh, why not? Oh, I'm a vegan. Oh, fair enough. Why is that? Oh, just, you know, for moral reasons, you know, just don't really like what's going on with all the factory farms and stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's fair enough. I watched that documentary about it. Oh, yeah, what's the documentary called? Oh, I've put it, and then you take your phone out and you put it on the little notes app on your phone, and you say you're going to watch it later, and then you never watch it later. You know, and that's about it. I've never had, you know, the typical internet, like, meme of, like, yeah, how dare you not be a vegan? Ah, I'm so offended. I've never had that. And no one I've ever met seems to have had anything like that. So, you know, I'm not going to say it never happens. I'm sure there's knobhead vegans out there, just like there's knobhead everybody's out there. But I've never seen this issue. I've never seen this being a problem. And I don't know, I feel like it's a good way of delegitimizing people who care about certain issues, to just make fun of how they act about it. like if they shout or if they scream, then you can just not bother responding to what they're actually saying whilst they're screaming, because, oh, they're screaming it, so obviously we shouldn't bother listening to them. I don't know. It's a hard subject to tackle, and I don't think I've tackled it with any real dignity, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just, I've been thinking about going vegan again, and there's a few things that come with that. One, I like milk, right? And I don't really like any of the replacements for it. Oat milk's okay in coffee, but it's not good in tea. Nothing really works well with tea, so that's kind of a problem. No vegan cheese tastes nice whatsoever. I haven't found a single one that tastes nice. And those are the two main hurdles for me, milk and cheese. I like both of those things. Eggs, I could live without eggs. I've kind of stopped eating eggs in the past couple months. I've had a few, but I feel like now I could go without eggs if I so chose, right? If I just said no more eggs, I could stop eating eggs. But I don't think I could stop drinking milk, and I don't think I could stop having cheese, because I like cheese. Like, it's just a nice thing. I'm not particularly like connoisseur of cheese. I'm just talking about cheddar and Parmesan, but you know, I like those, and I do like to have a bacon sandwich once in a while. I like having my salmon on toast because that's a really quick, easy sort of snack meal / meal. It's like more than a snack, but it's not quite a meal. So it fills you up enough, but it only takes like 5 minutes to make, and it's kind of healthy. So all of those things kind of come together, and it's like, yeah. And like, I'd never stop taking cod liver oil because, you know, like if I kind of need it, I'm not gonna like not take things that I actively need for my health. But also, like, I've heard the argument from vegans that you shouldn't even try to reduce your intake because that's not good enough. Like, we need to all be vegans. Like, vegans don't like vegetarians, and I was a vegetarian for the longest time. I've never been a vegan, but I've been vegetarian, and the difference, I think, isn't that massive. Like, vegetarian is on the path to being a vegan, right? So I think that they should kind of be a bit more cool with one another, because, you know, it's better than nothing, and you are reducing suffering overall by being a vegetarian. And sure, you are still complicit in you know, an industry of evil by buying milk and eggs and cheese and all the other stuff, and, you know, getting a leather jacket and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's better. If we were all vegetarians, right, I think we would be on the path to ridding ourselves of the amount of suffering that goes on, and we wouldn't have to have jobs like chicken sexers anymore, because that is just such a well, actually, we would still need jobs like chicken sexers. So maybe it's not good enough to just be vegetarian, but it would at least be better than the system we have now, right? You know, I just think about that job, and it makes me feel sick. The idea of sitting there all day, every day, just murdering fucking baby chickens for very little pay. Like, it was only 40 grand a year. And it's like, that's not good enough, you know, to basically be like the equivalent of like the Nazi officer at Auschwitz. Like, sometimes I've walked down the meat aisle at Sainsbury's, and I remember distinctly, I was going through a hard point in my life, and I walked down the meat aisle, and I just saw little Auschwitzes everywhere, just like genocides going on all around us. And it really kind of fucked me. And what really fucked me was I didn't stop eating meat when I realised this. And I thought, why? Why have I not done that? What's wrong with me? And I'm sure there'll be people in the comments that go, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, this is how we're made to eat meat. And it's like, I don't think we are made. I don't believe in God, and I don't really believe that we're here for any like purpose, particularly, other than to try and make life as sort of generally nice for ourselves as possible. So I don't believe like that we're put here for a certain cause. And there's the argument that like, oh, it's natural. But it's like, well, not all things that are natural are good for you. There's poison ivy, there's snakes that can kill you with one bite, there's fucking all sorts of stuff. There's like flies that can inject their larvae into your skin, and then the eggs just like patch inside you and eat you from the inside. And it's like, there's tapeworms that can, like electric eels that can like go up your knob, and like all sorts of stuff. And it's like, well, clearly just being natural isn't good enough to you know, get the stamp of quality, you know. But at the same time, do we want to live in an industrialized, well, we already do live in an industrialized world where everything's kind of fake, and in terms of like chemicals in the food and all that sort of stuff, because all the meat you see in the supermarkets has got like all sorts of preservatives and stuff sitting in it. Like, so I don't know. Because I had a steak the other day, right? And I thought, because the steak was kind of like there was 2 steaks in the packet, and I had one the day I got it, and then I waited like 5 days to eat the other one, and I was a little bit worried about eating the second one because it looked a little bit, didn't look off, but it just didn't look the best anymore, right? And it was the day before the best before day, and I was kind of like, oh God. And as I was sort of having it, I kind of thought, I'm really worried about getting food poisoning here. And like this is why I cook with like corn rather than chicken, because if I want to reheat something, I don't really want to stick something with chicken in the microwave, like reheat it. It freaks me out because I don't want to get food poisoning. I got food poisoning by trying to make a chicken soup, and I was ill for like a week, and it was miserable, and I was like puking my guts out. It was awful. Did not like that one bit, and I don't really want to have that again. And corn and like meat-free alternatives, I don't really have that worry, so it's kind of all right. I don't know, this is a very rambly video, I do recognise that, and I haven't come to any good conclusion particularly. I've kind of just raised a lot of questions, and if you have the answers to any of these questions, please leave them in the comments. Let's try and get a respectful discussion going back and forth on this issue, because I'm sure some of you agree, I'm sure you all disagree with me in various ways, and some of you will disagree with one another on how you disagree with me. And yeah, let's try and sort of come together and figure out something, some kind of consensus. Because surely even reducing this, intake of meat by just a little bit would be something. And I feel like I'm putting my reputation on the line here a little bit, because this is a really touchy subject. This is almost the equivalent of like doing a video about Palestine or something like that. And it's like it's not that I don't care about Palestine, but I don't know. I feel like you hear about it all over the place. So you come to these sort of videos to get away from that sort of stuff. And maybe you come to these videos and you don't want to be lectured about how you should stop eating meat, and I don't intend to do that, and I'm sorry if that's the interpretation that you took from this. And I'm also sorry if you're a vegan watching this and you just sort of see this and you think he's spreading like a bad message to people, and it's like, I'm spreading the best message I can. I'm just trying to figure out the answers. I don't have everything figured out, and I don't try and pretend to. I just want to understand how we can better our world. And yeah, that's basically it. So please leave your comments in the thing below about, are you a vegan? Are you a vegetarian? Are you a meat eater? Why are you any of these things? Have you even thought about it? Do you think about it much? Do you find that vegans are loud and annoying? Do you find the reverse, that carnivores, even though they're not carnivorous, they're omnivorous, but like, I know there's people out there that do the oh, I only eat meat diet, but let's just forget about them, because they are completely irrelevant because they're just a joke. So yeah, do you think that like veganism is good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think that maybe vegetarians are all right? Do you think that they're not doing enough? Do you think that we're all complicit in a system of oppression? I don't know. Yeah, leave your thoughts in the thing below, because I haven't come to any good conclusions out of this, so I'd like to see what you guys think. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you managed to get something out of it. Feel like you probably didn't. And yeah, take care everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about getting down and just feeling a little bit down, and how you can kind of try and get yourself out of a rut while still acknowledging your own emotions and that kind of thing. Because whatever it is that you're feeling right now, if you're not feeling too good, it's totally valid to not feel good, and it's totally fine to feel the way that you do, because there's a reason that you feel the way that you do, and it's just trying to figure out why you feel like this from a logistical and analytical point of view, rather than from an emotional point of view. So let's say, for instance, that you've just lost your job, right? It's very easy to sort of sit down and just go, oh my God, I feel so awful, like I did this and then I did this, and I just sort of feel like this, and I feel like this, and this kind of thing happens, and it can become very overwhelming, because all of a sudden you're bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing, and you're not really understanding how these things may relate to a larger answer, right? Well, what you kind of want to try and do is to try and figure out why this thing correlates to this thing, And once you can figure out those 2 points, then you can connect those to a third. And by that point, now you have something that you can fill in. And if you spend your time filling in this gap, then everything will start to make more sense. And the more sense it starts to make, maybe it won't immediately solve the bad feeling, but you will at least know why you feel like this. And that can help you in the long run, right? So sometimes you just need to feel bad. Sometimes you just need to be sad. And that's completely fine, right? Even when you feel like maybe there's no reason to feel like this, and that in itself can be confusing. Sometimes you don't need to find the answer straight away. Sometimes you just need to wallow, and that's okay, as long as you don't do it too much and do it forever. Because there's a certain point when you need to stop with the emotional side of things, because you have done everything that there is to do within this emotional sphere. And now there's the logistical understanding sphere that you need to fill in. And once you can fill in that one, this one will start to empty as you start to fill this one up, because it's a balancing act. Because we have 2 sides of the brain. It's probably pop psychology or whatever, right? But you have 2 sides of the brain. You've got the logistical side and you've got the emotional side. And you want to give both of them your respect and your trust. There's no point shutting out your emotions in order to just feel the logistics. And there's no point not bothering with the logistics just so that you can feel your emotions, because that might make you feel like you're more true to yourself or whatever, right? You need to have a balance of both, because you're a complicated person. You're a way more complicated person than anyone gives you credit for, because we're all complex beings, because the human experience and the human life is very long, very arduous and very intense and very varied. There's so many different experiences that you'll have. And you might see someone who's like 60 and maybe they're just working in like a branch of Waterstones or whatever. And you might feel like they're a bit of a boring person just because, like, just on the first instinct, right? And you're not judging them based on that, but you just see their life, you're like, that's kind of a boring life. And then you get to talk to them, maybe at the pub or whatever, and they tell you about like their mad endeavors around like the Sudan or whatever, and then you find out that they were in like some like pop punk band in the late 2000s, or maybe you find out that they went on tour with the Rolling Stones or something like that. I don't know, but you understand the point that I'm getting at, right? Is that everyone has their own story, and everyone's story is way more complex and varied than anyone can give it credit for, even themselves. Because I bet that person that works in that branch of Waterstones feels the same way that you did when you first saw them and made that little judgment. They feel like their life is boring. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like there's others out there that do better than them, that are more interesting than them, that have more to say than them. But we all have a lot to say. And it's not about, do we have 98% of stuff to say, or do we have 99% of stuff to say, or 97% of stuff to say? It's about figuring out how to say it. And it's about figuring out yourself within a wider context. And when you feel down, that can cloud your judgment, it can cloud your worldview, and it can cloud everything that's around you, because it literally will feel like there's a dark cloud over you. And it will feel sort of hard to get away from the rain that comes on you all the time, metaphorical rain. And you'll sort of sit there and you'll go, look, I am a decent person at the end of the day. I try to be a decent person. And yet it still feels like life is throwing this hard stuff at me. How do I deal with it? And there's no easy answer on how to deal with it, because what might work for one person might not work for another. Some people might get something out of like the self-improvement, like dopamine withdrawal thing. Other people might not. Some people might, turn to religion and might get something out of religion. Other people might not. Some people might take up yoga, and some people might think it's a load of shit, right? But whatever works for them, works for them. And I think as long as you try and maintain a positive outlook, which I know is very vague and very generic advice, but as long as you do it, then you will at least be on the path to success. Because it's not like, ooh, I've got a positive outlook now. Ooh, look at all the trees around me. Aren't they all so green and lovely? Oh, isn't everything so brilliant around here? It's fucking freezing deep down, because you'll be lying to yourself, right? But it's about trying to see the actual positives that are around you. Like right now, I think that I'm surrounded by beauty. Even though the trees are dead, even though the sky is grey, even though this tree is a lump of old shit that just shouldn't really be here, but it doesn't matter to me, because what I see is the nice things. I see that tree over there that you can't see, and I just think that's a gorgeous looking tree. I don't sit at it and just sort of think, fucking hell, it's so grey and miserable around here. It's so fucking grim. Everything's so shit. you know, because it's very easy to feel like that, because it's very easy to feel like negativity is the more important thing to notice, because negative things are negative and you want to avoid those negative things, right? So you try and look out for them. And that's logical, that makes sense, and I understand why we do it. I do it sometimes as well. But what you want to do is try and notice the positives in the world around you. Try and find the things that make you feel happy, because the more that you start to notice them, you'll notice more of them around you, right? Because the more that you take this journey towards, not enlightenment, but just, I don't know, you know how enlightenment is like a light comes down, maybe you've just got like a dim light and you kind of want to make it a bit brighter and brighter, and then you make the world around you feel brighter and brighter in the process. You just want to feel happy, right? You want to feel happy, but at the moment you don't. So you're trying to figure out how to solve that. And it's a very complicated issue. And sometimes you'll have setbacks that'll push you back. Sometimes you'll feel artificially super on top of the world because of some good event that comes to you, and you'll kind of sit and think to yourself, like, at some point, I'm not going to feel this good anymore, and how am I going to deal with that? And then you know what? Once that time comes, it won't be as bad as you feel like it will be, because it's very easy to catastrophize the badness. When at the end of the day, the badness is always a bit better than you think it is going to be once you get into the nitty-gritty of it, right? And then once you're in the badness, now the only way you can go is up. The only place you can go in a sphere of darkness is into the light, right? And all you can do if you feel sad is try and understand your sadness, validate yourself for it, whilst at the same time not, bringing down the world around you, and trying to see the positives in the world around you. And while that can be very hard, and it can feel like you actively have to try to do it, the more that you do it, the more it will feel innate to you. And the more that it feels innate to you, it won't feel like a task to accomplish, and it will start to just feel like an overarching worldview, and it will just become second nature to you. And then you'll just start seeing everything as positive. Like, obviously, like, you don't see literally everything as positive. If a bad thing happens to you, like I stepped in a bog on the way to film this video and it fucking stinks. That's not a positive thing, right? But you shut out the negative things, you acknowledge them, but then you put them in a box marked negative stuff, and then you get on with your life, right? Because this little box of negativity right here, you can open it and look through your old memories and see where you were and see how far you've come. But then at a certain point, it's nice to just put the box down, push it under the bed, and just breathe in nice, positive energy that's around you. So thank you very much for watching this incredibly hippie-esque video. I hope you managed to get something out of it. I know I'm a little bit all over the place with how I'm trying to word my point, but I think you generally get the gist of what I'm saying, right? Is that you need to try and have a positive outlook in order to see positivity, and the more you see positivity, the more you will feel the positivity, because it will breathe into you the way the air comes in through the pores of your skin, right? So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you got something out of it, and have a good one, and have a good day, a proper good day. And if you're having a bad day, just feel like, I get why I feel like this. I totally understand it, because I have bad days as well. We all have fucking bad days. Even like Alan Watts had bad days. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about anecdotes and how life is essentially a collection of anecdotes. You as an individual have had many experiences that have led you up to where you are today, right? And the person that you were 10 years ago is no longer the person that you are now, right? And why is that? It's because you've lived, it's because you've done stuff. And every time you've done something, it's changed your worldview. Some things maybe changed it a little bit. Maybe sometimes you had a big revelation because of some experience you had. Whatever it is, those little and big experiences all culminate to create the person that you are today, because you wouldn't be who you are if it weren't for the way that you lived. And whatever it is that you've done in the past, right, be it good or something that you're no longer proud of, it's all a lesson for yourself. Have you done something that you're not proud of, something that was perhaps quite nasty, quite mean-spirited, or quite selfish? If you've taken away the lesson from it and then applied it to yourself for the future, then you have learnt because of that, and you wouldn't have been able to learn that lesson and not made those same mistakes again if not for the fact that you made those mistakes the first time. It's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to get things wrong, and it's okay to do things in a way that isn't ideal, right? Because you're never going to get everything to be perfect. And if you try, then you're going to end up being a little bit discontent, and you end up not doing very much at all, because you can't always have great days. Not every day can be fucking brilliant. Not every day can be the best day of your life. And it shouldn't be an attempt to try and do that. What you should just try and do is just try and live as earnestly and true to yourself as possible, right? So I'm trying to think of a good anecdote that I could tell you that sort of represents this in a good way. And I think I'll start with this one. The way that I started this YouTube channel, the specific kind of videos that I'm doing. The first video that I did that actually kind of did numbers was the one that I did called Why I Dislike Central London. I was in Central London because I needed to meet a couple actors for the film that I'm making, Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, right? And I had to meet one actor at 5 o'clock, and I had to meet the next actor at 8 o'clock, right? And the idea was I was going to meet another actor at like sort of 6:30, but they ended up sort of pulling out. So I sort of said to the actor that was going to meet at 8, hey, can you do 6:30? They said they couldn't. So that's fair enough, right? So I figured, right, well, I've got 3 hours now. And I've got the camera. I might as well just film some videos where I talk to the camera and just see what happens with it. So I made one video. I was in front of the House of Parliament. So I thought, why not do a video about Central London in general and why I dislike it? Because I'm in Central London, right? And I made that video. That video ended up doing really well, and because of that I started doing more and more of these, and the more videos I've done, the more little anecdotes that have come along the way. Like today I went out filming and I stepped in a fucking bog. Like I was trying to cross a river, and there was like these various stones that I had to sort of cross and make one. In Takeshi's Castle, you got to do, there's that one like the stepping stones thing. I was basically having to do that, and I ended up dipping this foot like this far deep. That's why it's all fucking muddy and stuff, and this foot stinks. This foot fucking reeks, right? But I did that, and it was an experience. And now it's a little thing that if there is some conversation where we're talking about crossing rivers or going through nature in general, I have this to pull out. I have this little experience. Or there was a time I went out with my friend who's really into like survival, wildernessy sort of stuff, and we went out into the woods, and he showed me like all the various like whittling and like you do this thing with the sticks to try and make a fire. He showed me all these various sort of things, and so now if that topic ever comes up down the pub or whatever, I can refer to the fact that I went out with this friend and the knowledge that he gave unto me. I can then try and pass some of it on to those people. And it's the same way that if I talk to a historian and I have a really nice conversation with that historian, I can then I won't remember everything he said perfectly, and I'll probably recount it wrong, but it was an interesting little conversation, and it can come in useful if it's relevant to this other conversation that we're having down the line, right? I had a really long and quite fun discussion with the sound recordist on one of my films, Scorched Earth, directed by myself and my good friend Jeffro, and it was Jeffro's idea, the whole film. He's the mastermind behind it, and we were sat in this Airbnb, and we were talking, and it turned out he was a pastor or a vicar or something like that, and so I was just immediately intrigued, and I just threw a barrage of questions at him. And we ended up getting onto the topic of heaven and hell, and he had this really insightful way of thinking of heaven and hell, kind of like, I don't know how to put it, because I don't really want to put words in his mouth. So this is a bad recounting of the way that he said it, but basically like the idea was heaven and hell are all here in a sense, almost like different dimensions, but not quite, almost in a spiritual way, if that makes sense. They're not like places that you go, they are kind of here already. And that's not a great way of recounting it, so I'm very sorry if I got it wrong, but the fact that I had that conversation with that person was so interesting to me that I've occasionally brought that up when religion has come about, and I've brought up that point because he made a really nice and salient point to me. And that will happen as you talk to interesting people, and the more interesting people you talk to, the more interesting things you have to say down the line to other people. And that's kind of the key of it, is you're trying to make as much of an interesting life for yourself as you can possibly achieve. Because it's nice to sometimes have a relaxing day, but you can't always do nothing. Sometimes it's important to get out there and live, because the more that you live, the more that you will feel one with the world around you, and you feel contented with yourself. There's nobody out there that feels truly happy that has just done nothing their entire life, right? They're deep down, even if they might say they're happy, deep down they're very unhappy. But someone who has gone out there and lived this crazy life, I'm not saying they will be happy, by default because they've done that, but there is a higher chance that they will be happy. The more life you live and the more positive and negative experience you have that can round out your worldview and your persona in regards to who you are and how you project yourself for others, you will be able to figure out an identity for yourself, and it's through those experiences that that identity comes around. Like, say if I'd been born in China, for instance, I would be sort of the same person at the core, but my personality would be shaped by the world around me. It's kind of the nature versus nurture sort of discussion at the end of the day. And you know, if it would be very different to say if I was born in France or in the Congo or whatever, right? I would be a different person because my surroundings are different, and so I would have different experiences. You know, maybe I wouldn't go to open mics down in Isleworth. Maybe I would instead go to, I don't know, like sing-alongs and play-alongs out in the desert, right? Because that's my surroundings and that's where my community was formed and that's where I found myself and who I am in this thing, right? So whoever you are and whatever your circumstances are, they're more interesting than you think they are. They really are. You're not a boring person. You might get yourself down and feel like you're a boring person because maybe you try and talk and people like roll their eyes, but that's just the fact that you're with the wrong people, really. And if you can find the right people, then you will find yourself, because we aren't all just one. No man is an island and all that sort of stuff. And all you can do is just try and be the best person that you can be and just say yes to stuff. If someone invites you out and you've got like a little bit of energy to do it, then say yes. Why not? Because even if it's something that you don't necessarily feel like doing, you might get there and maybe it will turn out you don't enjoy it and you'll be sat there sort of thinking, oh God, I want to go home, I want to go home. But you did go, right? And now you're back at home. Now you've done that experience. It's done, right? And now it's another little experience to pull out if it becomes relevant in a future conversation. So that's what life is. It's a collection of anecdotes. You've got thousands of anecdotes in your back catalogue, right? You've got a big library full of books, and sometimes you'll pull out a book when it's relevant to a conversation, flip through it and go, there we are, this thing happened, or this thing happened, or someone told me this and it reflected upon my worldview in this sort of way, or whatever, right? Because all you can do is try and be the most you can be and just go out there and live the most life that you can live whilst, balancing yourself with your energy. Like if you just go out and overwhelm yourself and just get yourself exhausted, like staying out till 4 a.m. on the piss every night, that's obviously like, sure, you might get back and in a few years you'll be glad that you kind of did it, or like maybe you'll regret doing it. But the fact that you regret doing it is part of who you are today. And the fact that you didn't enjoy it has taught you a lesson. And everything teaches you something, even if you don't feel like it is. Even if you feel like it's not teaching you anything right now, that knowledge will become apparent once you see it, right? So I hope you managed to get something out of this video. I know it's a little bit all over the place. I hope it made some level of sense. So thank you very much for watching this. Please leave your most interesting anecdote or maybe your least interesting anecdote down in the comments below. And we'll get a bit of a discussion going on, because we've all got fun stuff to say. We've all had experiences, and we all come from different cultures as well. So my experience down the pub is going to be different from an American's experience down the bar. That's going to be different from a Turkish guy's experience down the shisha place or whatever, right? It doesn't matter, because you're only you, and you are you because of where you are, and that's fine. That's good, because it's important to be yourself. So thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about you and how you are much more interesting than you might think you are. Now, we all kind of get ourselves down a little bit. You might have an awkward conversation. Let's say you go down to the pub, right? And you're talking to some old guy, and he's talking to you about the business that he had when he was younger, and maybe he's going on about the holidays that you went on, these crazy escapades and all this sort of stuff. And you're maybe in your early to mid 20s, and you feel fuck, he's done so much and I've done so little. What have I done? I've maybe gone up and down town a little bit. I've got a couple fun drunk stories, but I haven't really got much. I'm not that interesting. What have I got to talk about? I could talk to him about all the sort of stuff that I'm interested in, but he doesn't give a crap. So What do I have? And it might be easy to make yourself feel like you're not interesting, right? And I just want to reaffirm to you that you are a much more interesting person than you might think you are. And it's very easy to get yourself down about it, and it's very easy to make yourself sort of feel like you're less valuable than you actually are. And that's just the whole brain working against you sort of thing. And the way that I would sort of say to you to make things work a bit better for yourself is become a more active listener. So say that guy that's talking about his business and talking about the crazy escapades he was having like abroad and all that stuff when he was younger. Pick up on like little details, right, that he might not even think of that interesting, that maybe aren't the point of the story, right? And pick up on those little bits and get him to verify this bit or like expand on this, right? Let him tell bits of the story, right? And now you become someone who he trusts, not necessarily trusts instinctively, but like he sees that you're an interesting person because you're listening, you're an active listener, you're a kind-hearted sort of individual who cares about others, right, for a start. And then, because now you have a little bit of rapport with that person, obviously you might feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about the things that you care about and that kind of thing. But once you start, right, you might get that little reaction of like, yeah. And once you get one of those, you kind of feel like, maybe that's the sort of thing that keeps you up late at night. You're lying in bed, like recollecting with that awkward experience. We all have that. We've all had that awkward experience, right? Really awkward stuff. I mean, I've had so many awkward experiences in my life where I've alienated people around me, not from anything bad, but just from like almost being like a real life David Brent, and just like being awkward about stuff. And, I think that what's key to remember is that you're not alone with that. Everyone has caused an awkward silence or caused one of those, sort of situations. We've all done it, okay? And it's natural. He's done it, I bet, Right before he left, he might have accidentally said something that he shouldn't have said. And it's like, oh shit, and maybe now he's cycling. I don't mean to use him in particular as an example, but just an example of another person who has accidentally caused some kind of, not harm, but just some sort of like awkward situation. And they're part of the human experience. Awkwardness is bound to happen to your life. You can't avoid it. So I think just allow it to be a part of you and allow yourself to just go through life not worrying what other people think about you, because no one gives a shit about you. And that's like not a negative thing. I'm not saying like no one cares about you. Obviously like your family care about you and all that sort of stuff, but they're not sitting there going, he said this, and I think he's doing this, and he's this, and this. All the stuff that you're like catastrophizing about in your head, You might be sitting there going, oh, I can't believe that I just said that. They've forgotten about it. Maybe at most, they might talk to someone else and go, he said this thing to me and it was a bit odd. And that's it, right? And, that's part and parcel of life. And if you can own that fact, you can become more confident. And the more confident you get, confidence is attracted to confidence, right? And because you're surrounding yourself with more confident people, that will allow you to become more confident, and that kind of feeds into itself, if that makes sense. And what you kind of want to do is just allow yourself to be yourself. And that's just it. Just allow yourself to be yourself, right? Because if you shut out the little parts of your personality that people think are boring, like say, I don't know, say you like Warhammer 40K. I don't, but like, let's use it as an example, right? So you talk to someone at the pub, right, and they're telling you about the little escapades that they had abroad, and then you start talking about Warhammer 40K, right? And you're really into it, you're talking about all the little like marine fucking guys and all the stuff. I don't know anything about it, but I'm just using it as an example. So people will listen to you and they'll be interested and they'll know that you're the Warhammer 40K guy, right? And that'll be the first little impression. And then the next time you meet them, you might talk to them about something else. You might bring up Warhammer 40K a little bit, but you'll also talk about other stuff. Maybe you're into, I don't know, other video games, or you're into other stuff, right? And you'll talk about that as well. And then they might, and this is all a bit nerdy sort of stuff that we're in here. We're in the nerdy sphere. So you'll be known as a little bit of a nerd. And like, I like nerds. Nerds are cool, right? That's a bit of an oxymoron, but they are cool, right? I love having little conversations about stuff that they're really interested in. I sort of sit there and I listen in on it. And like, I don't really know what the fuck they're talking about, but like, I try and take it in and I ask them little questions. And that's the active listening thing again. Because like, and you can use that little bit of knowledge if it comes up. Like, there's been times when someone has brought that same Warhammer 40K, to use it as an example again. Say it comes up in another conversation. I can use the fact that someone was just talking to me about Warhammer 40K. I'll pick up a little thing he said. Oh yeah, the Space Marines were all based on this particular thing from the 1950s or whatever, I don't know. And I'll bring it up to these guys and they'll go, oh, interesting. do you like Warhammer 40k? It's like, I've never played it, mate. But it's like, it doesn't matter, because you're an active listener, you're taking in information from other people and applying it onto another conversation. And that is part of who we are. And when I say that you're more interesting than you think you are, I think you're not a singular entity amongst like a sea of robots. You know, that every other person here, taxi driver, that he's going to go home and he might be really into rugby or something like that, and he could talk you off about rugby. And it's really interesting, you know what I mean? And so no man is an island. We all form our life and our opinions and our worldview around the people that we're surrounded by, and then we take what we have injected into ourselves from those people and apply it to other people. And the more that you can do that, and the more efficiently you can do that, the more interesting that you become. And you're already interesting enough as is. You might just be conscious, like self-conscious about yourself, and not want to expose, let's call it the vulnerable parts of you to other people, because you're worried that they'll judge you. But they don't really give a shit. You know, that's just it. That's the basic message of the video, is that people don't give a shit about the sort of little awkward experiences. What they remember is the things that you're interested in, the things that you talk about. Even if they forget the specifics, they know a general vibe of who you are. And that's what you already have. You have that. You have that personality deep within you, and you might not understand it, and it's about translating it from mental state, subconscious sort of stuff, to a conscious, I am this, I do this is my sort of personality, this is my life, this is who I am. And once you can own that fact and figure out who you are, then you can apply the knowledge that is deep within you, because you're a very intelligent person. Like, I don't know you in particular, right? But even if you're, say, you've got subpar IQ, you're still intelligent in various forms. Whether it's logistical intelligence, emotional intelligence, or statistical, like you can read off loads of stats, that kind of thing. And they all have their purposes and their functions and their uses in various social situations. And we all have our place in the world, and it's a much more interesting place than we think it might be if you get yourself down about it. Because if you can get yourself down about it, then you kind of sit there and go, oh, maybe I should just like isolate myself from everyone else. And if you do that, and you're just like, you don't talk to anyone ever, and you never do anything, it's not that you're not an interesting person, but you're locking your personality away, and you just need to put the key in the box and just open the box of your own personality and your own sense of self, and allow others in. And once you sort of do that, you'll realize that you are more interesting than you might have ever possibly imagined. And that's basically the core of the message here, is that just be yourself. Just be yourself, and people will come along for the ride. That's how I found this YouTube channel. I've done so many YouTube channels where I've tried to be like this, what I thought people wanted, and no one attached themselves to it. I start not giving a shit and just being who I actually am, right? I'm basically the same off camera as I am on camera. I mean, I'm a bit more like, you know, it's a stream of consciousness. I don't literally talk to myself like this all the time, but this is basically who I am. And because I've shown who I actually am, I think people like that and they've come on board. And you can do the same thing. Maybe not with videos, maybe with something else, whatever your hobby is. Just expose to the world who you are, and the world will accept you. So that's it from me. Please leave your comments in the thing below. If maybe you disagree with the points I'm making, maybe you've tried to expose your sense of self to others and you've been judged for it, and so it's kind of put you back in the little box. And it's about, like, I understand why you might be in the little box, right? But try and get out of it again. Try and put yourself through that again and see if it'll be successful the next time. And if it isn't, don't let that discourage you. Obviously it will discourage you, but don't like dwell in the discouragement. Just try again and keep trying, because eventually you will succeed. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah, love you all. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about routine, how it's good to have routine a little bit, but I feel like if you do too much routine, then you can start to feel a little bit unfulfilled with life. And you might wonder why you feel unfulfilled with life, because I've had so many routines throughout my life, you know, where, you know, you say, let's take a basic routine. You get up at, say, 7 a.m., right? You have your breakfast, and then you get to work for 9 a.m., so you leave your house at maybe like 8:15, right? And you know to leave your house by 8:15, otherwise you're gonna be late. And then you get to work, and you work until, let's say, 5, and then you get back about like nearly 6, you make yourself some food, and then you sit down, maybe you watch some YouTube, you watch a movie, or you play some video games or whatever, up until about maybe 9 or 10. And then, you know, maybe you brush your teeth and all that kind of stuff, and then you go to bed. And then you wake up, and then, you know, you need to leave your house by 8:15, and you get in and you do the work, and then you come back and you watch some movies, or you play some video games or whatever. And so you're basically doing the same thing each day, and the only variations are what movie are you watching, what video game are you playing, are you near the end of the video game, or are you near the start of the video game, or like that kind of thing. And you're just kind of doing the same thing again and again. And when you started this routine, you know, once you fell into the routine and you were able to do the routine and realize that you could do the routine, that felt really, really good. And that good feeling starts to dissipate. It starts to dissipate with time, because you're just doing the same thing again and again. You're not really experiencing new stuff. And the new stuff that comes, you know, might be like maybe on the weekends you go meet a couple mates or whatever, and maybe that starts to like blend in with one another. Each time you go and meet them, you meet them in the same place, and you talk about the same kind of stuff, and then you leave at the same time. There's never like some grand like breaking of the chain, you know, where some really strange experience happens to you, like for negative or positive, you know, some really weird bad stuff could happen to you, and it breaks that routine, and suddenly you're without a routine, and that can, you know, feel bad. But at the same time, you know, you no longer do you feel that emptiness. Even though you've got something bad going on in your life, you at least don't feel the emptiness. You feel something else, something actively negative, rather than just this passive ambivalence to the world. And, you know, I feel like what you should do is routinely set new routines for yourself. So let's say we had that routine of like getting up at 7 and then going into work at 9, that kind of thing. Let's say, bam, you get fired from that job, right? Or you leave that job for whatever reason because you've got another job lined up. And instead of this being a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday sort of thing, now you're maybe getting in at like noon and you're working till 8, right? And so now you get back and you go to bed a little bit later, and it's a new routine, new things start to happen. Maybe like, you know, you're making food in a different, like maybe you've moved house and you're making food in a new house, or you're going to a different gym, or you're, you know, going to different shops, or that kind of thing. And then that new routine starts to blend in with itself and starts to become the same kind of thing again and again. And I feel like, you know, a lot of the stuff on the internet in terms of self-improvement is all about setting routines for yourself, but they never really get into what do you do once you've got the routine and you start to feel the emptiness. Like, so many times have I started a routine and like a couple months in, I'm just like, yeah, great, got the routine. Okay, I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that, and then this happens and I do that, and it's the same thing again and again and again, and you never feel anything new. You never feel any new experience, because the experiences that you've got, even if they're sort of positive, they're just the same thing again and again and again, and that gets a little bit boring, because variety is the spice of life. That's what we all want. We all want, you know, a little bit of variety in our lives, and I feel like the best point in the routine is when you've just established it. That first maybe month-long like golden period of that, the honeymoon phase of your new routine. And then that will sort of start to falter, not because you're losing track of your routine. You're perfectly on your routine. You know, you're doing the things that you need to be doing. Everything's getting done, blah, 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 blah. But you just feel this emptiness, and you're wondering about the emptiness, and you're wondering how do you actually resolve it. And you might feel like you need to try and resolve it whilst keeping the routine, and you're trying like little variations on it, you know, because a lot of the self-improvement stuff is about generally like, you know, discipline like, is a big thing. People like to talk about discipline, and like, you know, don't let yourself have that nice thing, because you won't like it in the long run. And in certain cases that is true. Like, you know, it might feel nice to just get like a takeaway every fucking day, but you can't keep that up. And sure, it's nice to do that once in a while for a bit of a change of pace, but if you just keep doing that, then you're just gonna get a bit sick of it, even though it's meant to be a nice thing. And so what I feel like is the best thing to do is to try and routinely set new routines for yourself. And that's the best way that I can really describe it, is just say that routine that I described at the start of the video, where, you know, you get up at 7, you get to work for 9, then you leave. Let's say you need to keep that job, obviously, right? So how can you adjust new variations for your routine with this fixed thing that needs to be there. Well, maybe instead of, getting back and like playing the video games, I'm not going to go for the whole, maybe you should read a book instead, but maybe just like, maybe play the video games before you eat the dinner, or maybe, if it's the other way around, then do it the other way around, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe with my nightly routine at the moment, what I tend to do is I finish up everything that I'm doing, and then I have my dinner, and then I cut back and I eat the dinner while I'm watching some YouTube videos, or like maybe an episode of The Simpsons or an episode of Family Guy or something like that, and then I go out and have a cigarette, and then I come in, and that's like, the cigarette is basically the, right now I am going to bed sort of thing. So I get back in and I brush my teeth after I've had the cigarette, and I, do all that sort of stuff, the general grooming stuff, and then I get into bed. And then I sit on the laptop for a little bit and just watch some more podcasty, say kind of things like self-motivational kind of shit. Or, maybe I find a new YouTube channel, I watch that YouTube channel every day until I get bored of it. And then I find a new YouTube channel, I watch that until I get bored of it. Or I find a new TV show and I watch that until I get bored of it. And yesterday, I did everything completely different. Because I felt really weak yesterday. I felt so weak I couldn't even go out for that cigarette. And so I ended up going to bed, and then I realized that I needed to eat food. So I got up and I made some food and I ate it in bed. I don't normally eat it in bed. I normally eat it at a desk. And just doing it in that different way, I woke up and I sort of thought, hang on, today things feel kind of interesting because, I've woken up from a different habit than I normally wake up from, the habit that I do every single fucking day, And that in itself was a refreshing feeling. It was interesting, it was nice. And that was just such a minute change, just flipping the order of the things that I do. So maybe just try that, just try flipping the order of the things that you do them in. You're doing all the same things, but maybe instead of having a shower in the morning, maybe you have a shower at night, Or maybe the other way around, or maybe that, maybe you, I don't know, just try different things in a different order and just see where your limits are, see what you like doing, see what you don't like doing, because you're going to get bored of whatever you're doing now that's your comfort zone, and it will stop being a comfort zone because no longer does it feel comfortable. And so you want to try and adjust what you're doing to how your mentality sort of is. When you're setting the routine, that's the best time to have the routine. And then once you're bored of the routine isn't helping you anymore. It's just starting to set you back. So that's why I'm saying routinely set new routines for yourself. And if you can do that, then you'll be living a varied sort of life. Because they say that variety is the spice of life. They say that variety is the thing that makes everything interesting. And maybe your job is very consistent. Let's call it. Let's say you work in a warehouse, you work in an office, and you go in and you sit down and you do the typing and you do the Excel spreadsheets, and maybe sometimes you have a meeting, but it's the same shit all the fucking time. And I'm not saying quit your job or anything like that. I'm saying try and find little ways of just changing the system that you have set for yourself. Because by doing that, you'll realize that you're quite a flexible person. And the more you do that, the more flexible you will become. If you just set a routine for yourself and you live within that routine, you'll become scared of changing that routine because it's worked for you for so long. But at the same time, you feel that emptiness. So is it really working? It's hard to really get into, and it's hard to figure out how you're going to approach that topic. How are you going to change what you're doing whilst not risking, collapsing your routine entirely and just becoming a lazy sort of person, which you don't want to do. So what I would say is change little things at a time, change little bits, just change the order to begin with, and see what fulfills you, see what doesn't, and just ride along with the ride that your brain sets for you. Because, if you stick with this routine forever, you're going to, approach your old age and go, what did I do with my whole life? Oh, that's right, I got up at 7, and then I had my breakfast, and I had a shower, and then I left the house at 8:15, and then I got to work at 9, and then I went to the gym after I went to work, and then I got home, and then I had some dinner, and then I watched Family Guy, and then I had a shower, and then I went to bed, and then I did that again the next day, and 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 then the weekend came, and then I went and saw the same set of people, and we went to the same place, and we talked about the same sort of shit, and we left around the same time. And then I got back, and I, watched some Family Guy, and I went to bed, and then I got up, and then had a bit of a lazy Sunday, sort of playing video games and that kind of thing, and then I went to bed, sort of dreading the week that's coming ahead, because I don't really want to be working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but I have to. And I'm sort of sitting here going like, oh, I don't want Monday to come around. And then Monday comes around, and you do the whole thing again and again and again and again, and then that week blends into the next week, that blends into the next week, and you just get sick of it, and you'll get to the point where you can't change your routine anymore because you don't have the physical energy to, because you've set it so rigorously for yourself, and you've gotten so accustomed to it that you wouldn't know what to do without it. And if you just do that for your whole life, sure, it might work, it might function, but you'll be unfulfilled. At least I would. And I know other people would be different. Some people might thrive off a consistent routine, but some people might not. And I feel like a lot of self-improvement sort of things that you see on the internet are all about trying to set a routine, fit yourself in a little box so that you can be so you can maximize your productivity. And it's like, yeah, I want to be more productive, but at the same time, I don't want to not sell my soul, but just sell my time, not for work, but just in terms of the routine that I'm setting for myself. I don't want to have this kind of routine. I don't even really want to have any routine. I want to just wake up and see what today brings, and if it brings something good, then cool. If it doesn't, then that was a shit day, and it's good to have those. Because if every day is just whatever, then what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about when you're older? Oh, this crazy experience I had. And I had this crazy experience. And so what did you do? Oh, the same thing, basically, every single day. And yeah, that's not a life that I want to live. And I imagine a lot of people don't want to live that, but, setting a routine is the easiest way to stay on top of things. And, I'm not saying to change your whole life overnight or anything, but just change little things. Maybe instead of when you on the way back from work, maybe just go down that little park that you don't tend to go down, that you see that looks kind of interesting, but you've never really bothered going down it because you want to get home so that you can do this and do this and do this and do that. Maybe just go there, just have a wander around, and then see if you want to go the next day. And if you want to go the next day, keep doing that until you're bored of going to that place, and then stop. And then just go back to what it was like before. And then once you get bored of that, maybe try a different thing. Maybe you're getting bored of movies, pick up video games. You're getting bored of video games, pick up a podcast. You're getting bored of podcasts, go back to movies, And just have a few different routines that you kind of go through and work things that way. And yeah, as you go through the journey, you'll figure out what works for you, what doesn't, what do you like doing, what do you not. And you'll know it. You'll know what you want, and the more that you change up what you do, the more you'll figure out what you like, essentially. So I think that's going to be the video. I apologise if it didn't make much sense. It's freezing at the moment, and I needed to take my jacket off so that I could film the video, so I could angle it up, because the camera's sitting on my jacket, and I'm sitting on my arse on this icy fucking grass. It's freezing. It's hard to really, and figure out your thoughts when it's really cold. I'm wondering why I'm not shivering, to be honest. So I don't know. But yeah, leave your comments in the comments thing about what your routine is. What is your routine? How do you do it? Do you like your routine? How long have you been doing your current routine? And how do you keep it interesting? How do you keep your routine interesting? And do you completely disagree with everything that I've said? And if so, please leave a comment in the thing telling me why, and we can get a discourse going about it. So yeah, that's going to be the video. Thank you very much for watching, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, take care. Love you all. Bye-bye. Oh, I don't want to get up. Hang on. Ooh. Ow, 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 Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about deliberating with regards to, say, picking a film to watch. Now, I'm really bad for this. I'll go on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and I'll just scroll through for hours because I'll never find exactly what it is that I want to watch. And as a result, it means that I'm spending like half an hour up to an hour sometimes just going, oh, look at this film, and then I'll kind of go on like Google it, and I'll go on IMDb and I'll look at a couple of reviews, or I'll look at the score and I'll go, oh, do I really want to spend like 2.5 hours watching something that's only got 6.5? Yeah, no, I don't know. And then, but then, oh, maybe it's directed by a guy I kind of like, and yeah, maybe it'll be all right. Maybe it's just a bit misunderstood. But what if I'm one of the people that misunderstands it? Now I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. It's too long. I'll find this other one. Oh, yeah, but it's a comedy and it's an American one. What if it's a little bit sort of loud and it's all about like, you know, gag humor and that kind of thing. You know, like that loud kind of American humor that they like the Hangover sort of thing. And then I kind of like, and then I'll just keep doing that. I'll keep doing it and doing it and doing it until I just end up just watching nothing, and I might just go back to YouTube and just finding whatever the homepage recommends to me. So I end up just engaging with crap and not really challenging my brain with anything worthwhile, because I'm never quite in a state of mind to actually watch that kind of thing. And ever since I got my girlfriend a few months ago, she's the total opposite. She doesn't deliberate. She just like scrolls through and she sees something. Oh, should we watch that? Bam, straight away, right? And then we're watching it, right? And if it's shit, right, then we can just stop watching it. You know, we don't have to watch a crap movie. But I always think of it as like, I've dedicated myself to this film. I have to give it my full attention. I have to sit down for all of it. And that's why I'm deliberating so much. And I realised that, and as of late, I've tried to just whack stuff on. Like I whacked on the Godfather Part 2, and I realised I'm not enjoying it. You know the Family Guy thing where they're drowning, and he's like, I did not care for the Godfather. Yeah, that's kind of me. Like, I'm sure it's just because I don't get it. I don't get it, and I'll freely admit that, right? But if I'm being honest, the whole like mafia, Italian immigrant sort of thing just doesn't do much for me. And I find, what I like about The Godfather Part 1, I really like the part where Don Corleone, or however you say his name, he's in the hospital. I really like that stuff. Like around an hour and a half to about 2 hours 10, I love that bit. That bit's brilliant. And I like the wedding scene quite a lot. But outside of that, everything just really doesn't interest me. And it's all like, ooh, look, they put oranges on the tables whenever there was going to be a death. And it's like, no, they just put oranges there because there's a bit of colour, and like the directors and the cinematographers or whatever have outright said that, but people try and find meaning where it isn't. And I feel like when you're scrolling through films trying to find the one that's right for you, you're just putting yourself in a position where you're overemphasizing the importance of the film, like it's going to change your life, and if it doesn't, then you're disappointed by it. When you'd probably much rather watch something that's a little bit mediocre, that you didn't put any effort into putting on. You just chucked it on and then you watched it. And then now that you've watched it, you can bring it up in conversation, or if it comes up in conversation, you can say, oh yeah, I saw that, it was shit. You know, or oh, I saw it was really good. And you can just do that, and you can have a bit of fun with it. Oh, this tips back. So as of late, yeah, I have been trying to just watch rather than deliberate, and it has been a little bit liberating to not deliberate over what I'm choosing to watch. It means that I'm just getting more stuff like in my little like catalogue of films that I like, films that I've seen. What did we watch recently? It was a Spanish zombie movie. It was Apocalypse Z, something like that. Brackets the beginning, something like that. And it was about this like lad who I think his wife had died or left him or something, and he had this big house and he had a cat and he was a little bit depressed. And his sister was like, yeah, the government is taking a load of people out to like this island in the middle of nowhere. Well, you should come down. And then he goes to the airport, and at the airport, like a zombie outbreak happens, and like a guy bites a security guard, and then like it swarms everywhere. And it's one of those with like fast running zombies, and like where they turn really quickly, like they turn in like the space of about 10 seconds. So it was one of those kind of zombie films, and it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought if I was just like scrolling through things on my own, I would never in a million years have watched it. But I kind of enjoyed it, you know? And I think that's the important thing, is that it's important to have a little bit of schlock sometimes. It's important to not every film can be the Godfather level of intellectual. Not every film can change your life, and not every film should. You should watch a little bit of crap once in a while. You should watch a little bit of mediocre stuff, because the mediocre stuff helps bridge you from turning point to turning point in your life based on what you see that changes your perspective. Like, my favorite film is Before Sunrise, right? And it probably always will be. But if every film was of the quality of Before Sunrise, I feel like that would dilute what Before Sunrise means to me. If I'm just getting the same euphoric experience every single time, then that film suddenly wouldn't mean as much to me. If all the films that copy Before Sunrise, like Before We Go and stuff like that, if they were all as good as Before Sunrise, then Before Sunrise can't be that good if it's so easily replicatable. And I think that's part of the magic of cinema, is that, you know, not everything's going to be a masterpiece. Sometimes something will come out and it'll be an unexpected masterpiece. Like I really like Joker, right? And I feel like if I say that, the people lump me in with a certain group. Like, I don't love it because, like, ooh, he's a misunderstood guy and I actually think he was a hero. No, he's a twat the entire movie. But it really reminded me of a film that I really love called Bad Boy Bubby, which is all about this kind of guy that's been raised wrong. He's been like Bad Boy Bubby. Bubby has been raised by his mother to basically think that there's an apocalypse outside. And every time she goes out, she puts a gas mask on and she tells him, sit still. And then she points at a little Jesus on the cross and it's like, Jesus is watching you. And if you move, he's going to fucking tell me and I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Basically like that. And like God's wrath will come upon you. And so he's raised in that kind of way and he ends up escaping and he has to try and ingratiate with the world and try and gain himself a little bit of normalcy and confidence and that kind of thing. And like people take the piss out of him, people take advantage of him and all this kind of stuff. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful fucking film. One of the best films ever made, and Joker isn't as good as it, but it reminded me of that, and not many films remind me of that kind of film. I know everyone goes straight for King of Comedy, but I've not seen King of Comedy because, again, I've deliberated so much that means that I've not seen as many films as I perhaps should have, right? So, yeah, I feel like if you're trying to watch a film, if you're trying to pick something to watch, just pick the first fucking thing that looks vaguely interesting to you. And if it turns out to not be interesting, then turn it off and do it again. And eventually you'll find something that catches your eye and for a long period of time. And that's all you need to do. Just keep clicking stuff. Just keep clicking stuff. And once you find something that you like, then you realize, oh, I actually like zombie films. And I thought I didn't like them, but it turns out I do. Now there's loads of zombie films I can watch and they're all basically the fucking same. Like they're all just zombie apocalypse starts, people run around, try and survive the zombies. Maybe it's a man's inhumanity to man and man is the real villain kind of thing. Maybe it's just pure action movie. Maybe it's all about the fast zombies and like big high stakes action. Maybe they try and do a weird twist with it and they do like a heist. Like, what's the one that Zack Snyder did? I can't remember the name of it, but he did that kind of thing. Or maybe there's one that George Romero did where it was all about like a bunch of documentary filmmakers that went and like, it was almost like a found footage zombie movie. Then there's ones that are like set on a desert island. There might be one set in the city. There might be one set in the middle of nowhere. Maybe there's ones where the zombies are like, have like thoughts and feelings and like ingratiate with society. Maybe there's ones where like, I don't know, the zombies can be cured and return back into normal people, and so there's now a moral dilemma around killing them. All this kind of stuff. There's so many zombie movies, and they are all basically the same, but it's just these little things that are a little bit different. But they are all the same level of schlock, and some are more artsy than others, and some have gained a bit more fame within the general cultural zeitgeist. Like Dawn of the Dead is probably the most famous zombie movie. The original George Romero film is a fantastic movie. Really one of my favourite movies. That probably not of all time, but it would be in my top 100, I'd say. Dawn of the Dead would be like the extended director's cut, because I really like the slow, because it's all set in a shopping centre. I like the way it starts at the top and they've got their tiny little base, their little room, and as they get more comfortable, they explore the place and they clear out the rest of the shopping centre and they figure out what's right for them. And then from there, they figure out how to escape the shopping centre. And that's quite fun. I like all that kind of stuff, and I like the film because of that. And, I feel like if you're just trying to find a film to watch, just click something. And I've said that a few times now, but I cannot stress it enough. And I'm stressing it also for myself because I know I still deliberate, and no matter what I tell myself, I will still deliberate, and there's no real cure for that apart from just habit and just enforcing the habit. And if you can enforce the habit of just clicking before you consider, then you will end up watching more interesting stuff. You'll end up watching more stuff in general, and even if it's not interesting, then it can come up in a conversation. You go, yeah, that film's a load of shit. I wasn't interested in it. And yeah, that's going to be the video. So thank you so much for watching this, everybody. Please leave some film recommendations in the comments below, and just tell people, just watch it. What's it about? Give us a little like synopsis. Go try and pitch us the film, sell it to us. It can be your film as well. You can do self-promo if you want, but don't tell us that you made it. Just make it out like it's a normal film. That way, if people come to your like films page on Amazon Prime or whatever, they'll just consider it to be a normal film like the rest of them, because no one is self-promoting here. They're just promoting their own film as if it wasn't theirs. that makes sense. Don't be like, I made this film and I worked really hard on it, please check it out. Just go, this film's about a load of twats that try and get like married or whatever. Oh, well, okay. Sweet, I'm gonna watch that. I'm interested in a load of twats getting married. How's a load of twats gonna get married? Isn't a marriage between two people? How are they gonna make that work? Oh, it turns out they went to some country where the marriage laws are different. You can get like 10 people get married at the same time. Oh, sweet, I didn't know that was a thing. It's not, I just made it up in my head. That's the film, but film's a fiction, so that's cool. So yeah, that was a little bit nonsense at the end, but yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I hope you have a good rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Ooh. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk a little bit about romanticisation of the past, and how a lot of people, particularly from my generation, the sort of Generation Z, they like to sort of go on about like how times were so much better in the past. You know that whole joke of like, oh, what is it, like, oh, kids these days don't listen to Dark Side of the Moon. I'm 13 years old and I listen to Dark Side of the Moon. Everyone now just wants to listen to Kesha and Katy Perry, and the, you know, Lou Wrong Generation, I think is what it's called. Like the phenomenon of just people going on about like a time that they weren't even a part of, as if it was a way better time than it is now, whilst, you know, neglecting to mention the troubles that came from the past. And, you know, even if, let's say that the 70s or whatever was a perfect time where there was no problems going on at all, right? What good does it do you to just sit there and worry about like how times now are just so shit, and how back then everything was so brilliant? Because you're never going back to the 70s, right? Hate to break it to you, but the 70s aren't coming back, right? It's just not going to happen. You're never going to get those times back. When I was sort of 13, 14, I was even one of those Lou Wrong Generation sort of people. Like, I mean, I didn't even really listen to music from that period. I didn't really like music from that period at the time. But I just sort of looked at, like, you know, pictures of Britain in like the 70s and the 60s, and I just thought, oh God, all the buildings look so much nicer. Everyone just looks so more like appealing in like their suits and stuff. And, you know, now there's just, you know, just people going around and like they don't even care about what they wear. And it's like, you know, look at me, I'm one to talk, aren't I? So, you know, everything back then wasn't, you know, all sunshine and rainbows, and everything now isn't just like pure misery. There's a give and a take to it. You know, sometimes stuff is all right, sometimes stuff isn't that as good as it was, sometimes stuff is better than it was. So, you know, now, sure, iPhones and like social media and stuff, they can cause a lot of problems, right? Like, I don't particularly like, you know, Twitter and Facebook and you know, all this sort of stuff. Like, but, you know, I do go on them, and I almost feel like maybe I'm addicted to them, the same way that probably everyone else is. But maybe we don't want to admit to ourselves that we have an addiction to social media. We just sort of, you know, decry how everyone now is so reliant on their phones. And it's like, you know, you go on a train and you see everyone sort of sat there like this, just do like that, right? And you kind of look and you're like, oh God, where's all the people reading newspapers or reading books and stuff? And you might see one or two that are reading a newspaper or reading a book. And, you know, you'll be looking at your phone as well, whilst you're looking at everyone else going, oh, everyone nowadays is just on their phone. So are you, right? And you might be aware that it's all an addiction sort of thing, that we're all there just kind of addicted to this fucking like screen that comes and gives us dopamine, because that's what it does. It's got big bright colors on it. Like if I show you the home page, right? Look at all the bright colors. You've got WhatsApp there, big green. You got YouTube, big red. You got like Google Chrome, it's got green, red and yellow. You got Discord, big blue, you know? Then you go on here and it's just like, oh, man looks happy on the news, whoa. And then you got like, oh, what are the London hospitals with the shortest A&E waiting times? Oh, I wonder that, you know, and you know, just so much stuff, so much clutter that just impacts your mind and just makes you think about stuff that, you know, it's escapism at the end of the day. You want to try and not think about the general world that's around you, so you think about the stuff that's on your phone. And, you know, because you might, if you are one of these people that sort of looks at, you know, the world, the modern world, and goes, oh, everything was so much better way back then, this is a nice little escape from that. You know, from this modern world that we all live in, even though it's part of the modern world in and of itself. And I don't blame you for that, because I have done the same sort of thing. And in fact, the film that I'm making, Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, right, is all about this idea of over-romanticization of the past. It's all about Johnny Mozzer is a character who is obsessed with, like, you know, the music from that period, and how, you know, back then it just looked like, you know, everything was so much better, and he can't quite describe it, you know, but it's this feeling, it's this idea that everything was better back then, before we had phones and stuff cluttering our brains, and before 24-hour news got us all worried about everything all the time. You know, people just got on with life, and people would have nice little, oh, hello, Doris, how are you doing today? Oh, not too bad, I've just gone, apparently everyone from the 70s is just from up north. But that is my little imagination of what the 70s was like, right? And I like that little imagination of what the 70s was like. And if I could live in that little fantasy, I would. But it doesn't exist, right? But what does exist is the modern day. And if you try and shut yourself away from what's going on in the modern world, you're never going to be content with yourself, because you won't be able to find a place for yourself in this modern world, right? Because there's stuff somewhere for everyone. There's someone else there that thinks the same as you, and if you just find them, then you can get along and, like, maybe make friends with them or whatever. There'll be little communities that work for you. Maybe there'll be online communities. Maybe there'll be in-person communities. Just try and find something that can give you a little bit of a respite, is, I think, might be the word, from you know, the miseries of the modern world, if you're so upset with the modern world. Because, like, I understand it, you know. I mean, new builds, for instance, they look a wreck. Architecture and stuff now might feel like it doesn't look as good as it once was. And yeah, sure, maybe we understand the idea that maybe architecture from the past wasn't all that, but a lot of it, we only see the stuff that's managed to last the test of time, which is all the best stuff, right? Which will be the same in 300 years when we look at the stuff that's, you know, survived the test of time that was built today. You know, the bog standard flat number 709 is not going to be the thing that lasts for another 300 years. That's going to be gone. Don't worry about that. That's going the way of the Victorian slum. So that's fine. But, you know, we still have to look at it. I don't like looking at these new builds. I think they're fucking atrocious, right? But they keep building them. They keep building more and more and more of them, right? And, you know, they replace, like, pubs, and they shut down all the pubs, and they replace them with, like, blocks of flats, or, you know, clothes shops or vape shops or whatever. And it's just like, that wasn't as good. How's that helping the community? Now everyone just sort of stays at home and just drinks cans instead of going to the pub and drinking there, you know. And maybe that feels like the community's sort of dying, but it's not. Maybe it's changing because the internet has impacted our lives in a tremendous, very revolutionary way. It's very hard to say very revolutionary, very revolutionary, right? It just is very revolutionary what's going on with the internet and stuff, in terms of how it's impacted our lives, and we're adjusting to that, and we're in an adjustment phase. And once we figure that out, you know, I don't think people stop meeting up in person. Like, you know, the younger people that I know, right, like in my family and stuff, they still go and meet each other, like their friends and that. They still go out, they go to a skate park and stuff. There's a skate park just down there, right? I filmed there yesterday, right, during the school hours, and it was dead. I'm here now and it's Saturday, right, and they're all out, they're all skating and stuff. So, you know, people are still going around, they're still having a nice time, people are still socializing and interacting with one another, and everything is still working pretty much, right? At least in the same way that it was in the 70s. I'm not saying all, like, systemic problems are going to be just solved like that. But, you know, maybe it's a good thing that we're aware of all that sort of stuff now in a way that we weren't back then. And there's this whole idea that, oh, you can't say anything now without, like, compared to back then, you could say whatever you wanted. And it's like, I feel like you can say more now, surely, because, like, we have more access to information. I think the only thing I dislike about the internet is, well, the main thing I dislike about the internet is, say if you're having a conversation with someone and you're trying to remember what something is, right? You can just now go on Google and someone will just go, I'm Googling it. Oh, it turns out it's this. That could have been like a 2-hour conversation there where we tried to figure out what was going on. And, you know, we might have come out with the wrong answer, and then we spread the wrong answer to a load of people, right? And then that weird alternate version of reality gets spread, and we all get to live on our own little bubbles rather than this one giant bubble that is the internet. And that's kind of nice. Maybe that's me just claiming that I want misinformation to spread across the world, and if that's the case, so be it. But it's just fun because it comes from a place of, like, communicating with one another and developing friendships through, you know, querying the world and not getting the answer straight away, compared to if I just go on Google and just go, oh, what's the thing that we're trying to figure out? Oh, here it is. Oh, great. Now what do we talk about, you know? So, yeah, the past, you know, it might have been better than today in some ways, but you know what? I'm only 25, right? I was born in 1999. I'm never going to know for like first-hand experience what it was like in the 70s, right? Some people will say it's better than now. Some people will say it's worse than now, right? And all I can do is just take all of their bits of experience on board, try and develop my own worldview on where we are, right? And where we're going to go in the future, and try and make the best future for ourselves, right? Based on what worked about the present and what worked about the past. So that's all we can really do. All we can do is just try and be the most content with the world that we have, because we're not going to get any other world. We can't just take this world back to the fucking shop and get a refund on it or get a swap for another world. So just make with it what you have. Just, make something out of it. Because if you just sit there and just like sit around going, oh, it's so shit nowadays, everything's so crap. It's like, well, you're not going to be happy anyway, and you're going to shut out this modern world. And even if it's not as good as the 70s, you're just making it worse for yourself. So why do that when you can just be sort of a bit more content with it? And, even if there are problems now, there were problems back then as well. Maybe they're different problems. Some will be the same. Some things will change. Some things will stay the same. And that's fine. That's all right. And we don't need to worry so much about where we are, where we're going, because as long as you're finding a community that works for you and that, you find comfort in and that you enjoy being around, if you find some, oasis in this sea of grey and brown, then you might just be able to be content with the fact that maybe the 70s was better, and we're never going to go back to that time, but we can always see what the present has to bring for us, because the second best film ever made is still a good film. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Let me know your experiences. Were you born ages ago and you grew up in the 70s and the 80s or whatever, and you think like, oh, it was so much better back then? Why do you think it was better back then? Maybe you're the opposite. You grew up in the 70s and the 80s and you think now is way better because X, Y, and Z reasons. Maybe you're from like my generation, Generation Z. You were born in like the late 90s or early 2000s, and you think, oh God, everything's so crap now. Or maybe you think that we're living in the best time ever because phones and stuff are brilliant, and you can communicate with like your friends and family even if they move to another country without having to pay out the arse for like, international calls and stuff. Because that's a good thing. WhatsApp's good. I mean, like, I talked to this guy from Japan, right? Tantris Humble. He does videos sort of like this as well. And, I wouldn't be able to talk to him if it was 1979, right? It would cost us an arm and a leg. In fact, we wouldn't have even met, because he'd just be in Japan doing his Japan business and I'd be in Britain doing my Britain business. And we'd never be able to interact with one another because there's no such thing as Discord. There's no such thing as like, Instagram DMs. Nothing like that existed back then. You'd have to send letters back and forth, and it would be like, oh, dear Tantris Humble, how you doing today? What's going on new with you in Japan? You're not even doing videos because it's 1979. You can't afford to make them. And get the film reels and all that stuff, and then even then you can't share them. So tell me what you're doing in 1979 in Japan. How's it going? All the best, Josh from Britain. Right? And then 3 weeks later, the letter gets to Tantris Humble, right? And he opens it, and he goes, "Ah, it's a nice little letter. I'll write him one back." And he goes, "Dear Josh, thank you for your letter. How's life treating you back in Britain? All right? Yeah, things are going well. I'm not making any videos because I can't afford the film, as you just said. But no worries. There's loads of stuff to do in 1979, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll go to the Japanese pub or whatever. And yeah, I might be in Britain in the next couple years, so I'll send you a letter at some point. Yeah, cheers, bye." He wouldn't say cheers because he's American, but you get the point. That takes ages. And then that's 6 weeks to get my response back from the thing that he sent. Probably more if he takes like a week or so to write the letter out. Maybe he forgets to send it for like a few days because he's busy and stuff. And then, oh shit, yeah, I've got this letter. I need to send that to take it to the post office or whatever they have in Japan. Oh yeah, I need to take it over there. And then he sends it, and then it gets all delivered all the way back. Whereas now, I can just go, "Hey, man," and then maybe he's online now. "Oh, hey man, how's it going?" "Yeah, not too bad, just out filming a video." "Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm just about to go out. I'll talk to you in a few hours." "Okay, cool." Beep, send. Right? We've just had the whole conversation right there in the time it took me to send that. And that's cool. That's fun. That's a nice thing about the modern world, isn't it? And yeah, maybe there's some stuff about the 70s where we don't have now, that we do have now. and vice versa. Maybe there's stuff that we had in the 70s that we don't have now. And I'd like you to tell me what that stuff is, because I like to educate myself and that kind of thing. Because as you can probably tell from this video, I don't have all the fucking answers. I don't have any of the answers. I just have questions. So yeah, please leave your answers to these questions in the description, in the comments thing, because we can get a nice little discussion going around this, and it can be a load of fun. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Hope you have a good one, and take care. Bye-bye. Oh, Tantress Humble has responded to me. Yeah, okay. Oh, it turns out that he's actually living in 2025, and he's just doing some videos. Cool. Well, yeah, it's a shy joke, really. Right, well. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about negativity and positivity, and how you kind of need a bit of a balance in your mindset in order to be able to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Because you want to be a positive person overall. You want to generally look at the world and see as nice a thing as you can, but you also don't want to delude yourself and see, you know, positive stuff that isn't there, you know, and ignore negative stuff that is there. Right? I did a video already about the idea of overwhelming negativity of, like, you know, YouTubers and influencers and stuff that only talk about positive stuff, and they'll never ever talk about negative stuff, because basically negative stuff doesn't happen, so why should they bother about it? They're positive influencers, not negative influencers. And I'm not super keen on that, because I feel like if you're super like positive all the time and you just constantly like that, then you're only going to end up making yourself unhappy in the long run, because, you know, positivity is an active thing, whereas negativity, I feel like we're constantly slipping towards negativity, right? And positivity is an active effort that you need to put in to be positive. You can't just, you can't be positive by default. If you were to do nothing, right? If you just did absolutely nothing, right, all day, right? What would happen? Well, first, you would lose your job because you're not going into work. That's a negative thing. And that would have consequences that, you know, now you can't pay your rent and your bills, and then you would end up getting evicted. That's also a negative thing. So now you're homeless and jobless, right? And those are both negative things, right? And this is all through inaction. So inaction leads to negative consequences, and action can lead to positive consequences. And obviously, you know, not every action will lead to a positive thing, and sometimes you shouldn't take an action because it will lead you to a negative thing. Yeah, that's perfectly normal, right? But generally, taking action takes you towards a positive thing, and use your common sense to make sense of that, you know, because sometimes, you know, say if you've got a mate and you really want to get rid of this mate because they're just a nasty piece of work, but you're still sort of friendly with them, you know, just being positive about it isn't really going to do anything. At a certain point, you just need to tell this guy, just like, fuck off, you know, and that's a negative thing that you have to do. But it will bring positive consequences in the long run, right? And so action leads to positivity. And I feel like it's very easy to delude yourself into an overly positive mindset. Just seeing like the colors in the rainbow that aren't there when, you know, we're living in a world of gray and stuff like that. And it's like, look, instead of just trying to make up your own fucking colors, why don't you just accept the fact that the world is grey and take appreciation in the fact it's grey. I think this all looks quite nice over here. I like the grey skies. I like all this sort of stuff. I like when it rains. I like all that. And, you know, they're kind of negative things, but I get a bit of a positive little thing out of them. I like being in the rain. I like getting back in after it's been raining and, you know, having a nice bowl of soup and looking out the window at the rain on the window, like the little droplets and stuff. That's all quite nice. And, you know, there's silver linings in everything. You know, there's absolutely everything. There is some kind of silver lining, even if, you know, the silver lining is something that you've kind of had to force. It's still there, and as long as you're not only relying on those silver linings, then you'll be all right. Because there's a whole cloud as well that you need to deal with, but the silver lining is there, and as long as you can see the silver lining, and you can deal with the cloud, you'll be all right. If you can see the silver lining but you can't deal with the cloud, then you're kind of fucked. And if you can only deal with the cloud but not see the silver lining, that's just a recipe for misery. So what I would say is just kind of be as present with your understanding of the world as you can be. Be as objective with it as you can be. try and see the positive, try and see the negative. It's very easy with the internet and all the algorithms and stuff that push negativity onto people to get really down on yourself because it seems like the world is so fucked. You know, like there's so many problems going on in the world and it doesn't seem like any of them are getting solved, and it's very easy to get yourself down about that. But you know, you've got your own little world around you that has loads of little positive things inside of it, that if you're only seeing that negative broader picture stuff, you're not going to see all of this nice little stuff knocking around. Like, there's a reason that newspapers don't put like cat gets saved from tree as like the main headline of a thing, or they'll put like bus broke down rather than showing all the, you know, the buses that safely made it to their destination. And obviously it's because those stories aren't nearly as interesting. And they're not going to get as much engagement and stuff like that. Oh, breaking news, bus moves as according to schedule. Brilliant. What am I supposed to get out of that? And it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like we get pushed a lot of negative stuff onto us. And as a result, it can be very easy to overcompensate with the positivity. Because it sort of seems like if you engage with negativity, that you're capitulating to all the horrors of the world and allowing, you know, the misery of these internet algorithms to take you by the throat and control your mood and that kind of thing. But I don't know, there is negative stuff going on in the world, you know? There's people starving out there, there's all sorts of horrible shit going on. And in your own life as well, there's all sorts of horrible stuff going on. You know, getting stuck in a traffic jam isn't a nice thing. You're not going to get in a traffic jam and go, oh, well, it's actually a good thing that I can be in this traffic jam. Or actually, maybe, you know, being in the traffic jam means that you get to finish your podcast before you get to the destination, right? Because that extra 3 minutes, right? Maybe you would have got to your destination with 3 minutes left on the podcast and you'd have been sat in the car finishing the podcast anyway, you know? Not counting, obviously, the last, like, 5 minutes where they just say goodbye for ages and they just take ages to say goodbye, right? I know I do that as well. I'll say goodbye like halfway through a video and then just keep rambling. But, you know, it's just a sort of thing where if you're trying to make it for yourself, like, and try and make some kind of positive influence on the world around you, you need to be aware of the negative stuff. And I think, like, overly positive people, I don't dislike them for their over positivity. I think it's a good thing that they're able to feel like that and that they're able to be so overwhelmingly happy and positive all the time. But at the same time, I don't think that you should feel like you should need to force yourself to be like that, because that's not the truest state for every single human being. Like, not everyone needs to be like that. Some people like to have a bit of negativity in their life, you know, like harmless negativity, you know, like where you watch the Jeremy Kyle show or whatever and you laugh at the fucking people that come on, you know, and you just have a bit of a piss take about that. And it's like, that's certainly a negative thing that you're doing and engaging with, but it's a little bit of fun. You can have a bit of, like, you know, banter with your mate and like, oh, God, have you seen that one? You can have little in-jokes with one another. And so you can turn a negative thing into a positive thing through your experience shared with another person or even on your own, you know. It's just a case of trying to make the best out of a bad situation, really, because, you know, the world isn't all that well put together, and we're kind of just thrown into it in a way where we need to figure out our own worldview and our own way of life. And I think a lot of people seek guidance on that. And when I was like 15, 16, I needed to seek guidance because I didn't have any of the answers. I didn't know what was going on, and I still don't. So I still do seek guidance. And, you know, I first started off with a lot of these like motivational YouTubers, like, you know, the ones that nowadays it's all like the whole wake up at 3 a.m. and get to the gym for 4 a.m. and then get back and start grinding at like 5 a.m. But back then we didn't have all those buzzwords for it. And, you know, they would just have all this quite professional looking footage and they would like shout encouragement at you through a really compressed microphone. And, you know, I started to wonder during that time that I was watching those videos, wow, they're really like, nothing bad ever seems to happen to these people. And it's like, how do they manage to make it so that nothing bad happens to them? It's like, obviously bad stuff happens to these positive people, you know, but how do they handle that positivity, that negativity? How do they handle that? Do they kind of go through and reject the negative impulses in the brain and just not allow them to manifest? How do they do that Is that a skill that you can learn? Is that innate? And is it even desirable? Does it mean that you're maybe less able to deal with negative stuff than people who like to bask in the negativity? I don't know. I don't have any of the answers. And I think, you know, a lot of people will try and act like they do have all the answers and try and like push an agenda onto you. And I just kind of want to say, like, so you got positive stuff in your life, right? And then you got negative stuff in your life, right? And that's always going to be the case. No matter who you are, what's going on, there'll always be a bit of positive and a bit of negative. There'll always be a bit of good with the bad and a bit of bad with the good, right? And you want to cherish the good stuff whilst dealing with the bad stuff. And you're generally trying to reduce the bad stuff and increase the good stuff. And you'll never get to a point where there's only good stuff and no bad stuff. That's never going to happen. And that's part of the human experience. If we had no negative impulses in the brain, nothing bad ever happened to us, we wouldn't just be the happiest we've ever been just because everything is happy all the time. It's just like, because if everything was just brilliant all the time, then it's just kind of whatever, because there's nothing to compare it to. You know, like, say you're having the best time of your life, right? And it's just an insanely great time. Like, it's one magical night, let's say. Say if every night was like that and it was that magical, would that be good? I'm sure it'd be nice the first couple times, but you get sick of it pretty quickly, I think. And yeah, I know it's a little bit of a rambly one, this one. It doesn't make vast amounts of sense, but the general core of the message is just, you should try and balance yourself, because if you're too overly positive, I feel like you can shut out negativity when you need to take it in order to be able to deal with negative stuff when it comes. And if you only look at positivity, then you're going to miss all the bad stuff. And the positive stuff will just become less positive with time. And eventually you'll just be in this, experience limbo where nothing is particularly good or bad. Maybe. I don't really know. I just sort of think that I've seen a lot of this positive influencer sort of stuff as of late, and I just wanted to just say my little 2 cents about it, really. Just, it's nice to be positive. I think that positivity is a good thing, obviously, but I'd like to see some of these positivity influencers take some time to address more negative things as well through their positive outlook, because they do have a good outlook. They have a good way of seeing the world where they can extract positivity from negativity. It's just a case of being able to digest that negativity as well, and make the most out of the positivity. Because I think we can all agree that positivity is nice and negativity isn't. I don't think anyone out there likes negativity. They don't like bad stuff happening to them. And yeah, that's basically the video. This is a very sleepy one, pretty much. I hope you've managed to take something away from this. Something, just, try and balance your worldview, essentially, is what I'm saying. So yeah, leave your comments below about if you agree with that. Are you a super positive person? If so, how do you manage to make that work? How do you deal with negative stuff? Do you think I'm just talking a load of shite? If you do, please let me know, tell me why, and I'll maybe address that in another video. And if you're someone who's maybe a bit like what they call doomers, right? If you're a doomer, then leave your comments below about why you think the world is fucked and why you can't see any positive stuff out there. Because something positive must have happened to you in the recent memory, right? Something good must have happened. So how do you handle that? Do you fixate on that to try and make yourself feel better, or do you shut it out because it's not as important as the negative stuff? I don't know. I feel like I try and edge more towards having a positive outlook on stuff. I try and see it like, if I miss a bus, then at least I can have a cigarette. If I have to stay a little bit later at work, I think, oh well, I can at least get an hour's overtime on this. That can get me it basically covers my travel to and from here, so that's all right. If it's cold, I might think, oh well, I'll be warm when I get in. And yeah. That's basically it. That's basically the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about forcing yourself out of your comfort zone and how that can always be a good thing. You always generally want to get yourself out of your comfort zone, because once you come back inside your comfort zone, you're going to look around, you're going to go, oh, I'm really glad I did that. You're never going to regret trying something new. You're never going to regret going on a weird little adventure and then coming back around. Like a good example is recently I went to France. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened in France, but it was a weird little adventure, to say the least. It was a strange old time. And while I was out there, I was kind of thinking, oh God, this is a pain in the arse, this. All right, what's going on here? This is a right pain in the arse. And then I kind of got back, and I was really glad that I had done that, because it's a little extra thing to add to my, my list of weird anecdotes and my list of weird little adventures that I've been on. Because the more little adventures that you go on, the more full your own life and as personality kind of become. The more stuff you try, the more stuff you know that you like, the more stuff you know that you don't like, the more that you can accommodate the world to sort of suit you and your needs. So let's say that you are kind of stuck in your comfort zone quite a bit, to the point where it doesn't even feel that comfortable anymore. It's just what you're used to, right? You know, you're kind of doing the same old thing, and every single day, and you're getting a bit bored of it, and you want to try something new, but you know, the second that you sort of leave the house to do it, you start to think, oh God, I don't want to do this, I just want to go home, I just want to go home. And I feel that all the time. So if I get invited out to a weird part of London or something like that, and for some event that I'm not used to doing, right, I'll be on the train there, and I'll be catastrophizing it in my mind, and I'll be kind of going, oh God, oh, this is going to be a wreck. This is going to be terrible. I just want to get back. You know, I could be doing so much right now. I could just be at home, and that would be all right. You know. And then I get there, and the anxiety, the catastrophizing is still sort of there. And it's only once I start getting back that I start to think, actually, that was really fucking good. That was a really good little thing, that. Even if it wasn't like, I'm not saying it has to be the best day of your life or something like that. It can just be a little thing. It can just be a little nice time out in a weird situation. But, you know, you'll get back home, and, you know, you'll take your jacket off. You kind of go, ah, I'm back home. Oh, thank God. You know, and that feeling, even if you didn't really enjoy the thing, that feeling on its own is worth it. It's worth doing all that just for that, because it's such a nice feeling coming back inside your comfort zone after you've taken some time out of it. And just to revel in what you're comfortable with, because being outside your comfort zone makes you realise what your own comfort zone is. Because once you're in your comfort zone, it's hard to sort of see the forest for the trees. It's hard to see what it is that you like and what your comfort is, because you're just doing what you like all the time, to the point where it just sort of feels like it's just a thing that you do. Like, you ever play a video game, right? And you're really enjoying the video game. And like, this is a long video game, and you get like, you know, 2/3 of the way through this video game, and like the fun isn't quite there anymore. But you know, you need to finish this video game, so you turn it on. You're like, right, let's play a bit of this, and you just sit there like this. There's no more like shocking moments, because you know how all the gameplay works. You know the formula. You know what's going to happen when a cutscene happens. You know what some weird little event or like some twist in the narrative will be. You know, you can feel all this stuff happening. You can see when you walk into a room full of chest-high walls that you're probably going to have a shootout here later, and you can sense all of this, and you just get a bit bored of it, you know. But you're still in your comfort zone. You're doing a thing that you find comfortable because you like the video game. You know you like the video game, but now you're getting bored by it. So it's kind of like that for life. It's kind of like that, just going out and trying weird things. Like, say you socialise with your friends, right? And you normally do it in town A, right? And you go to town A and you go to a couple of the clubs there, and then maybe you go to a club late at night, and then you get back at like 1 in the morning, right? And that's what you're used to, right? Let's then say that you then go to town B, and you start off by having a coffee, and then you go to see a band that you've not really listened to much before, and then you go to like a little bar after that, and then you get back at maybe midnight, right? It's a totally different little thing, but it's still the same general idea of going to a little place, socialising for a bit, going into some place with loud music, and then coming back. But because you're not used to doing that particular type of thing, that's not your comfort zone in that sort of moment. So you just need to try and make yourself sort of feel comfortable in this new place and expand your comfort zone to accommodate this new little experience. And if you do that going to town B thing a few more times, it'll just become part of your just repertoire of little things to do. And then, you know, someone invites you out to town B to do all this stuff, right? And then, you know, at some point, You might invite someone to go to town B to do that stuff because now you're just used to it, that you could just do it on your own. You could be the person that introduces someone else to it. And then maybe that friend before introduces you to town C. And in town C, maybe you go for a coffee, and then maybe you go to the local library or a museum or something, and then, you know, you go to a bar afterwards and have a few drinks, and then maybe like there's a comedy club near there, so you go and take in the comedy club, and then you get back at like 11, right? And that's town C. And you start doing that, and at first you're kind of like, oh, this is a bit of a weird little thing. I'm not used to this. I'm used to doing the town B thing and the town A thing. But go on then, yeah, all right. And then you get back in for the first time, you're like, oh God, I'm glad to be back. And as you start doing that town C thing more and more, you know, going to the library and the museum and the comedy club and then coming back, you'll start to make that part your comfort zone as well. And then you might invite that other person to town C, and you'll be the one taking around going, oh, this museum has like some really nice stuff in it. I've been here before. And oh yeah, there's this cafe on the green. Yeah, you should go to this one. This one's probably the nicest one. It does the best coffee for the cheapest price. And then, oh yeah, this comedy club. Have you heard this comedy club? I've been there a couple of times. It's brilliant, you know? And you just keep doing that, right? Keep expanding your repertoire of experiences. And the more you do that, the more that you'll just expand your own sense of self, because you'll know where works for you, what doesn't. Maybe town C was something that really worked for you, but town B you didn't really like. So you're not going to go to town B anymore and do that stuff anymore. But you did like town C, and you're already used to town A. So now you've just got 2 towns, whereas before you only had 1 town, right? And the more times that you do this, the more times that you expand your life experience to accommodate new things and new little ways of life, the more interesting I feel like you'll become, because, you know, it's not like, because it's something that you can, you know, draw from your sense of experience to maybe tell a little story, or to, you know, put it in the things that you create, or maybe just, you know, even just to remember, so that the next time someone invites you out to that town, you can go, no thanks, I've been there before, I don't like it. So all of those things are perfectly valid. And, you know, it's just a case of, because your comfort zone is only temporarily comfortable, right? And if you get too used to your comfort zone, right, and you live in your comfort zone, you never leave it, right, then it's not really your comfort zone anymore. And the more you abuse your comfort system, your comfort zone, the more it will shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink, to the point where, you know, you'll have very little that makes you comfortable, that makes you interesting, that makes you happy. And like, if you lose your comfort zone, then you're kind of fucked, because you need a comfort zone. Like my comfort zone, for instance, is like watching Alan Partridge, right, and like listening to the Ricky Gervais show with Carl Pilkington, right? Those are probably my 2 like most comfort zone sort of things, right? And if I did nothing but watch Alan Partridge and like listen to the Ricky Gervais show, right, I'd get bored of them, because I'd have heard every single joke, and I've already listened to Knowing Me, Knowing You like 5 times, and I've listened to the XFM shows so many times. But, you know, if I just did nothing but listen to that, and I just stayed and kept that as my comfort zone, I was like, this is who I am, this is my comfort zone, and this is what I'm comfortable with, and I just did that, I'd get bored of them. And if I get bored of those things, right, then I need to find something else to bring into my comfort zone. Otherwise, I've got nothing, right? Because everything will just make me uncomfortable, because I'll be sat there bored, and boredom is an uncomfortable feeling. So I feel like if you stay within your comfort zone too much, you will lose your comfort zone, and you don't want to lose your comfort zone. You want to expand your comfort zone and keep trying new things and trying to find new things. Like with music, for instance, a few months ago, I got into 2 separate things. I got into Akala and like, you know, political hip hop and stuff, and I got into dream theater, right? And so I had my little obsession with the Akala and the political hip hop stuff, right? And then I started to get a bit bored of that, right? And so I started gravitating towards the dream theater stuff. And now I'm getting a little bit bored of dream theater, and I don't have any other little bands that I found to move on to next, to be my next little obsession. So once I'm done with dream theater, I don't know what I'm going to do, because yeah, they'll all be in my comfort zone. Yeah, sure, I can go and listen to Akala at any point and go like, he's a fucking genius, right? And I'll be able to go listen to Dream Theater at any point in the future and go, they're a fucking good band. And the same way that like my obsessions before, like I had a big King Gizzard phase, and I had a Pink Floyd phase and that sort of thing. So I can still go back to those, right? But if I keep abusing that well of comfort, then it's not going to feel comfortable anymore. Like I've listened to Echoes from Pink Floyd, honestly, probably like 200, 300 times. And to the point where it's diminishing returns. Like, it's my favourite song of all time. But if I listen to it every single day, would it really be my favourite song? Because I just get so bored of it. And yeah, that's just kind of the problem. You don't want to abuse your comfort zone. You don't want to abuse the things that make you happy, because then you just run out of stuff to make you content with the world. And if you do that, then you're going to end up being quite miserable. So yeah, you don't want that. And yeah, that's basically the video. So leave your comments below about what makes you comfortable, what's your comfort zone. It's all about the fucking birds, they won't shut up. Yeah, so leave your comments below about what makes you feel good, what makes you feel bad. Do you like going out and exploring your weird little comfort zone? Do you like that feeling of getting in through the door and going, oh God, I'm so glad to be back, that was a load of shite. But, you know, it's something that I now know not to do for the future. And yeah, just let me know your general experiences. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care and bye-bye. Ooh. Ooh. Cool. Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about debates on the internet. Now, I like to go on to various Reddit forums or Facebook threads recently and like stuff like that, and just see the dumb stuff that people put out there into the world and just kind of try and counteract it. I'm not doing it to sort of instill my beliefs onto them or to try and convert them over to what I'm thinking, that kind of thing. I'm kind of just doing it for a bit of entertainment. But it's the same sort of entertainment as like watching like dumb reality TV or, you know, something like that, where it's not, you know, actually engaging. It's just kind of, it gives you the quick dopamine rush without any kind of holistic, you know, reason behind it for actually putting you in that situation where you're actually kind of getting something out of what you're doing. So it's a nice little bit of entertainment, but it's not particularly fulfilling. If anything, it just makes you a little bit annoyed and agitated, because it makes you realise that there's such terrible people out there with such terrible views. I think the one I remember that's coming to mind now is, I was on Reddit maybe a year ago or something like that, and I went on this thread that this guy put out, basically talking about how he was giving up on women, right? And whenever you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, let's have a bit of fun with this, let's see what this guy's saying. How are women the lower class this time? And he basically was trying to make this point that he should be able to have as many women as he wants, but at the same time, those women should only be allowed to have him. So it's like this one-sided monogamy, and then the other half gets to be polygamous. So the man gets to sleep with whoever he wants, right? And the woman can't say anything, but the woman can't sleep with whoever she wants, or he'll go mental. So I kind of pointed out the hypocrisy there and how that's not really fair. And he sort of went on this tangent about, men are the key and then women are the lock. And, you wouldn't want a lock that can be opened by any key. And it's like, you've just made this metaphor to make your point rather than the other way around, where the metaphor helps make your point. You've based your point around this metaphor of the lock and the key, which the only reason you've gone for lock and key is because a lock goes into a key. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But also, men aren't fucking keys, women aren't locks, we're not doors, we're human beings. And I had a bit of fun with him. I tried to take him semi-seriously, not because I took him seriously, but because I could see that there was clearly some kind of mental instability behind him. And I didn't want to just make fun of him just based on his beliefs, even though internally I was laughing at the things he was saying. And that was where I was getting my entertainment from. But a part of me was trying to sort of, get through to him a little bit. And now that I've gone onto Facebook again, it's so much worse. At least that guy, I could tell that he was really depressed with the world, and he'd become quite nihilistic, and in the base sense, the basic sense of just, oh, there's no point in anything, not the actual philosophy of nihilism. He just didn't care about the world, and he thought the world didn't care about him. So, I thought I'd take him a little bit seriously, but the stuff on Facebook, Jesus Christ, I get to the point where I don't bother taking it seriously. I just comment really straight to the point, nah, you're wrong, right? And I have a bit of fun with it, and I just make little jokes and stuff like that. And is that really helping? Is that adding to the discourse? Is that making things better? I don't really think it is. I mean, all I'm doing is giving engagement to these disinformation campaigns, these Facebook pages that you notice them. Like, for instance, there's these ones in Britain which are like, oh, Britain was so much better way back when. And it's like, sure, okay, you want to post your nostalgic little pictures of Britain in the 1960s and 70s. Cool, that's like a fun little niche where people can go, oh, I remember that and that kind of stuff, right? That's fine. I don't have a problem with that inherently. But it's when you go on the little page and you see that it changed its name from like some random thing from Mexico, and then you see that it changed its name then from something in Russia and the servers are based out of Moscow, and it's just like, okay, this is a Russian disinformation campaign, all right, and I'm just feeding into it and giving it exactly what it wants, because what it wants is to create outrage, and it wants people like me to morally grandstand over the bots that are putting out all this garbage. And I bet at least 50% of the things that I respond to are just machines that are just algorithmically inclined to just post whatever is going to garner the most amount of attraction as possible. And it's not a good thing that I'm doing. I'm not helping the world in any real way by responding to these things. I've certainly never changed anyone's mind. I've certainly not made anyone, think more about the world that they live in or anything like that. And they haven't done the same to me. We're not having any kind of like exchange of ideas here with respect behind it. We're taking the piss out of one another, and we're seeing straight past one another's issues, and because their issues come from this totally different world where like I just don't even recognize the stuff on there. It's just like, the LGBT are coming to like, turn all your kids gay by like indoctrinating them into like child pedophiles or something like that, and it's just, none of it is based in any kind of reality, so I can't really add to it. All I can do is just have a laugh at it. And then I'm sure there's someone in the comments here that's just seen that and gone, oh, he's part of the woke agenda or whatever. And I don't mean to get into that kind of thing. I'm not interested in joining this culture or this. I'm just saying from my perspective, my experience of having these little debates on the internet, because I'm sure loads of you like to have little debates on the internet. You like to have a bit of fun just typing out some dumb stuff, and it maybe gets you to research a little thing because someone makes a really stupid point, so you kind of Google it to see what's going on there, and you end up reading some random paper about some subject that you only partially care about. But it's semi-learning. It's maybe learning just to prove yourself right, but it's still learning all the same. And so in a way that is kind of fun. But I think we need a space to have these debates where we can tell that the other person is real and they're coming from a place of goodwill and good faith, and we can exchange ideas in a fair sort of way where we can acknowledge one another's grievances whilst pointing out flaws in their arguments. Because I'm not a perfect individual. My arguments are often flawed. I remember I was at the bank about 2 weeks ago, right? And I was in the queue and I was a little bit tired. And I went up there and I said, can I take some money from this bank account and put it into this bank account? She said, and it was like a different bank account. And so she sort of said, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. And then I got and sat down and I realized I was totally in the wrong because I'd said the things in the wrong order, and she was confused and I was getting annoyed at her because I was wrong and she was confused by what I was saying. And so I just kept trying to reiterate what I was saying, and I was getting really quite agitated. And I thought that was quite a good metaphor for what basically happens with all this debating on the internet. Someone is wrong, but they have convinced themselves that they're right. And whenever someone tries to point out that they're wrong, that is taken as an attack. And so you end up rooting yourself deeper and deeper into the issue. And it was only when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, shit, I was completely in the wrong. And I really should have gone up to her and said, I'm really sorry, but there was a big queue and I thought, I'm not queuing for 20 minutes just to apologise to her. So I left, and I felt quite bad because I'd made her day slightly worse. I'm now another person that she'll probably tell as a story to her boyfriend or whatever, just going, oh, these fucking people that come to my work, arseholes, and I'll be one of those little stories. This really tall guy came in and he just said, I want to put this into this, and it's like, we can't do that, and he just kept getting annoyed at me. And it's like, yeah, I was wrong. I was completely and utterly wrong in that situation. And I think there's a way that we need to sort of come together and realise that we're not always correct on everything, and to find some language that we can use to respectfully point out that someone else is wrong, so that that person can feel comfortable admitting that they're wrong, because it's part of human nature. We want to be correct, we want to be right, because being right tends to mean that we can progress, and we want to progress. Why do we want to progress? Because we want to get to the things we want to achieve. Whether, you know, and then in the long run, that tends to be stuff like getting a house and getting a family and all that kind of stuff in the long distant future. And then to build up to that, you've got individual little goals that take you along the way, and for each of those, you need to be correct on certain topics. So it's in our nature to want to be correct on stuff. And I think we just need to find a way of allowing our language to give us phrases to admit that we're wrong in a way that doesn't delegitimize us entirely. Because like, you see someone on a video or whatever, and they're wrong about an issue, and you just like, you know, everyone piles in on them. And, you know, suddenly it's like, this person's wrong, they're a load of shit, aren't they? It's like, yeah, but I don't know what they do when they get off the camera, and maybe they're right about other stuff, you know? Like, if all anyone saw of me on the internet was me at that bank being wrong, it's not like I became a full, like, Karen or anything, but, you know, I was certainly in the wrong, and I certainly got a bit agitated, you know, just because, like, we were hitting a brick wall with one another, and she was right and I was wrong, and I thought I was right and I thought she was wrong, and you know, it's a immovable object meets a heavy force, or whatever the fucking saying is. And you know, I think with debating on the internet, it's a lot of fun, but I think we need to sort of find a way of doing it in a more productive way. I remember I went and saw a couple debates live, like proper debates, because I got into, like, you know, YouTube philosophy kind of stuff. I started watching Alex O'Connor, and then I started watching a few others sort of around that, and I started watching internet debates between random streamers and stuff. And like, it would be the ones where one is totally in the wrong and one is totally in the right. They were just like fun entertainment. And then I started enjoying, like, there was one that was like Hitchens versus Hitchens, and that one was quite fun. And then I watched one that was like all about the Catholic Church, and I think it had Stephen Fry doing a little bit. And you know, it was quite entertaining, and I went and signed up for this little, like, debate club. I didn't debate in it because I'm not very good at making my points, but I sort of sat and watched a couple of them, and it was nice to see two people that were like, they had opposite, you know, opinions on a matter, but they were able to come together and respectfully have a dialogue about it. Because, you know, if one person thinks they're totally right and the other person thinks they're totally right, just delegitimizing the other person for what they think isn't going to make them realize that they're wrong. And obviously just, you know, politely saying you're incorrect isn't going to massively do much either to someone that's, you know, fully indoctrinated into certain ideologies and stuff like that. Like, I can't just go up to a Christian and just go, sorry, God doesn't exist. And they'll go, yeah, you make a good point. No, I'm not going to go to the church anymore. I'm going to become an atheist. You know, that it doesn't work like that. If you want to admit that you're wrong, it needs to come from within, not from an external pressure. And I think we need to find a way that we can make it more acceptable for people to come out and just admit that they're wrong about stuff. Because we're all wrong about stuff from time to time. None of us are perfect individuals, none of us are perfect beings, and that's fine. It's okay to be wrong about stuff. So yeah, I think that's going to be the video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you got something out of it. And yeah, let me know your experiences of having debates on the internet. Have you ever gotten riled up because of them as well? Because that's something that happens. You end up getting riled up about stuff that doesn't affect you. And you know, that's negative energy that you don't need in your life. Negative attraction, sort of, that you don't need deep down. And I'm sure a load of you have had the debate with someone that you disagree with on the internet. So leave your experiences below when it's maybe made you feel really bad, or maybe it's made you feel good, or maybe it's made you learn more about an issue, or maybe, you know, you realized you were wrong for an internet debate, or something like that, or you can turn someone else's opinion around, and how did you do that? Or how did they manage to get you to turn your opinion around? And leave a comment below about that kind of thing, about your previous experiences with this. And yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, take care everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about journaling. So you might have had a diary or something when you were a teenager, stuff like that, and you might have read back on it later on in your life and gone, oh wow, I don't remember that. Oh, that little bit there was a bit interesting. Oh yeah, I was into that sort of thing at the time, wasn't I? And you read it, right? And it just brings back all sorts of little memories, right? And So I read back my old teenage diary ages ago, like probably about 7 years ago, right? And I thought to myself, oh wow, I should start doing this again. And so what I did is I just started, every day I would just type into a Word document. I didn't bother with like actually journaling on paper and books and stuff, because I don't know, I just found it so much easier to just type, just like almost non-consciously, just and I wouldn't even think, right? I would just type what worked, and sometimes I would just go onto these random nonsensical tangents just because I was just typing pure improv. And like, if I was making something that didn't really make any sense, if I was saying something that didn't make any sense, I'd just keep going, and then I go, this doesn't really make any sense, this bit's sort of a bit nonsense. But I would try and explain what happened in the day, what I was feeling and all that kind of stuff, right? And I did that for about 5 years. And I collated it all into one big Word document. And I found out I'd written somewhere in the realm of about 450,000 words, which for reference is slightly longer than all of Lord of the Rings. So I've got a lot of that to read through at some point in my later life. So middle-aged me is going to be quite happy reading through that. A lot of it's moaning. A lot of it's just general complaining about stuff. And then last year, what I started doing is I took all the old phone recordings that I had, because, you know, I'm going out to meet friends and stuff, and I used to just like recording people and just like recording our little hangouts and stuff like that, right? And so what I would do is I went and found all the old clips, and I just compiled them into these long 2-3 hour sort of vlogs, as I sort of called them. I never uploaded them to YouTube or anything like that. They just sit on a hard drive, right? And so I made probably about 8 of those, and that came up to about 10 hours, and that was all of the past footage from like 2016 up till about 2023-ish when I started doing that. And it was really sort of quite satisfying just to find all the old things. Like, I went onto Facebook and I found all the videos that other people had posted of us on Facebook, just like, you know, hanging out and stuff like that. And I would screen record those Facebook videos and put them into the archive as well. I've got basically everything. I've got all my old YouTube videos, all my friends' old YouTube videos. I've got everything for future sort of me, because in the future I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be like 50 or 60 years old, right? And I'll be getting nostalgic for me now, or, you know, this sort of 2010, 2020 sort of era, when this feels like it's the simple times, you know, and 2050 or 2060 will be the complicated times. You know how now people sort of think of now as being the complicated times, and like the 70s or the 60s or the 80s as being the simple times. I mean, that's just going to shift, because in the 60s and the 70s, they probably thought that the 30s were the simple times, and now they're living in a weird, complicated era where with rock and roll and all this sort of stuff. So, you know, the times are always changing, and I thought, well, it'd be good to get some kind of accurate depiction of what today was like. So this present age, right? So I started just continuing to make more little archive footage for myself. So if I was walking around, I would just record myself just rambling about whatever was going on, like who am I going to meet, what am I doing, all that kind of stuff. Am I going, you know, if I'm walking to the library, I'd say I'm walking to the library to do X, Y, and Z to print something out. Going to Lidl, and then I did like a few just like taking the camera and just like walking around Lidl, so that you get an idea of what a Lidl looks like in the year 2020 whatever, 2 or something like that. And that was just quite useful for, you know, the future archive purposes, because I've gone back at some of those 2017 recordings and just, there's stuff that I didn't remember, you know, it's just little interactions, or like someone will appear in a video that I've just completely forgotten about. I forgot they even existed, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, that person was all right. Yeah, I've completely forgot they ever existed, and seeing them in a video brings back little extra memories, right? So it's just nice to put these bits down on some kind of, you know, actualized kind of piece of media, let's say, just so that I can watch it back or read it back and just know what things were like now. Because, like, I'm not going to be able to know exactly what it was like in the year 2025, in the year 2065. You know, just off the top of my memory, because my memory of events will change, and my recollection will no longer be accurate 50 years down the line, the same way that I can't accurately tell you about sometime in like 2010, because that was 15 years ago, you know, and it was totally different time, and I was a totally different person, and in the year 2050 I'll be a totally different person from me today. And it's just interesting to see what you know, was going on in the past, you know? Like, I remember I saw one that was just us hanging out in some friend's house, and I was trying to figure out whose house it was. And then I eventually figured it out, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, I haven't seen that guy in like 10 years. I wonder what happened to him. And I you know, maybe there's another piece of this archive footage where we say in a conversation maybe what happened to him. I don't know, because at this point I genuinely have about 100 hours worth of this stuff to sift through. So when I'm like 50 or 60 and I'm feeling a bit nostalgic for now, I can just go back and I can scan through, I can pick and choose what I'm interested in. Do I want a bit of 2015? Do I want a bit of 2020? Do I want a bit of 2025? You know, that kind of thing. And I can see all the little state increments of my development from, I guess, childhood to adulthood. Because it's, you know, it's not like you just wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm an adult now. It's a slow sort of gradual process of maturity. And seeing it actually play out in video form is quite interesting. And at some point when I have a lot of free time on my hands, which isn't going to be anytime soon, what I want to do is I want to take all of these, like this 100 hours worth of footage, which is just in the form of these videos now. I've deleted all the individual files and I've just put it on these big, like 3-hour long compilation vlog type things, right? I want to take all that footage and then just edit it down into one like 90-minute semi-movie. Maybe I'll release it, maybe I won't, probably won't. If I did, everyone that's involved probably needs to be dead. Maybe I'd schedule it to go out like in the year 2150 or something like that, you know? So that no one that's alive today would ever see it. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting because I was remembering little things that I'd totally forgotten about, and just remembering people that I'd forgotten about and events that I'd forgotten about. Like when I went all around like East London, I had a 6-month phase of just going around East London and just hanging out there with various people. And I was like, oh fuck, I forgot about that. And I forgot about that guy as well. And he had like that girlfriend and she was all right. And like, you know, and then they had those friends down at that random pub that we went to twice in like 2018 or whatever. And I completely forgot about all of that. And it's kind of interesting how, you know, you forget about certain things because you rewrite your own past to fit what your present is a little bit, don't you? And because you're trying to write your present for the benefit of your future, and you're kind of rewriting your past for the benefit of your present. And it's just nice to have what could be as closely depicted as an accurate representation of this present day. And I say present day kind of loosely because it's the last 10 years pretty much. But, you know, the general present rather than like a long, long, long time ago or a long, long time in the future. It's nice to just get that down. And what I would say to you is just, you must have loads of footage. You must have loads of footage from like maybe school or maybe like after school or like just stuff on your phone where you've just got little videos and stuff or pictures. Like I like to just put the pictures at the end of these vlogs and then just put like one of my tracks, whatever my newest track is, my newest song, and just put that underneath just so, you know, you get an idea of what was going on, what was I making at that time, what was I doing at that time, who was I talking to, what was my temperament, what was my, you know, what was I into, like what kind of references am I making to various like films or bits of music and stuff like that. Am I like referencing completely different things to what I am now? Oh, almost certainly. And I just thought it was really sort of satisfying, and I've sat down and watched a couple, like not in full, I've kind of skipped through them and watched maybe a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there and just seen what takes my fancy. And it's just quite satisfying. There's a lot of cringeworthy stuff on there. Like a lot of, because like, you know, you're 17, 18, 19, you're drinking and stuff like that. And there's a lot of like dumb shit on there, which, you know, I wouldn't release any of these to the world, particularly because, you know, I don't have the permission of the people who are in these videos, and I wouldn't do that. But I just, and I kind of like the idea that they're a private archive for just for me. And like, you know, maybe in 50 years, my grandkids, I could sort of, like if I tell them some kind of story from nowadays, which to them would be like the past, and I would probably refer to it as the good old days, back when we all knew what was going on, didn't we? Unlike now in the 2070s when everything's all confusing, isn't it? You know, and it's just quite nice. And that's all this video is about, is just to say to you, like, take some of that footage that you've got, you must have some, and just like put it together in one big long compilation, and just that way you can get, like, you don't have to worry that you're going to lose all of this stuff at a certain point. because, you know, you do with time, don't you? You can just keep this stuff on like a USB stick or an external hard drive or something and just keep that there for decades. Maybe like, because the hard drives don't last forever, you might need to shift it onto another hard drive in like 10 years or something, but that's fine. You know, you only need to do that 3 times and then bam, you're 30 years in the future. And like 30 years from now is like, I'm not gonna remember today with any kind of accuracy. So it's nice to have that objective depiction. I remember I read a journal entry of one of my mates, which was about us hanging out like 10 years ago. And we were like pointing at bits like, when the fuck did that happen? What was that? Do you remember that? No, I don't remember that. And it's like, and I started wondering, am I just making shit up in these journals, you know? Was that what I was doing? And no, I'm sure I wasn't, because I was quite dedicated to being accurate with exactly how I was feeling. And he's like, when I first started the journal, it was a way to sort of, you know, figure out, I guess, teenage angst and stuff like that. And then as that goes on, it starts to become more just a general, it kind of goes from the opposite of teenage angst to like just trying to motivate myself and trying to like force positivity on myself. And both approaches were kind of satisfying. It's nice to see like where the development of the writing style kind of goes. There's a long phase where I got really like Oscar Wilde-ish with my descriptions and just like trying to overly flowery language and stuff like that. And that was kind of pretentious, and that was a little phase. And then there's a phase after that where I go completely the other direction. Everything's just like the most simple stuff, like I went to Lidl and I did this, and then I went to see this guy and we did this, and then I went home. You know, and that's kind of nice as well, because you know, you don't need to have the most in-depth recollection. You don't need to do what I did, which is sometimes some of these single-day journal entries would be like 10,000 words long, going into like telling the entire day out like it's a part of a novel or something like that. You don't need to do that. You can if you want. It's fun, and it doesn't take vastly long. It took probably about 2 hours to write that 10,000 words, because it's not like you're writing a Stephen King novel or something. You're just typing out exactly what happened just like that, just almost subconsciously. You got like a podcast or whatever on in the background. I like to listen to Bolero when I'm writing stuff. I find Bolero gets me to write a lot faster. So I put that on and I just typed stuff. And it's quite nice. So, you know, even if you don't have any archive footage or like old videos and stuff like that, maybe just like start writing a bit of a journal. Maybe just start it, see how you feel about it, type down your thoughts, because it helps you to figure out what you're thinking in the present day and to actually sort of understand your own mentality in this present moment, which can be very useful for, you know, yourself and your development, because no matter what your age is, you're always developing in some way. Even if you're not like physically developing, you're at least sort of trying to learn something, whether that be like some way of how the world works, or like trying to keep up with the modern day, or like trying to understand the human connection, the human experience, or whatever. You're just trying to figure out how to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And I think that journaling is a very good way of getting to that. And you know, it's not like you write a journal, you suddenly become Buddha or something, but you just kind of, it's just nice, it's just fun. And I thought I'd make this video to tell you that it is fun and you should give it a go, really. So yeah, leave your comments in the description comments box, right, about your experience with journaling. Have you done it? Did you get any satisfaction out of it? Do you maybe think that a personal archive is a really good thing? Or maybe you think it's a bad thing. Maybe you don't want to know what you were doing 30 years ago. Maybe you see that as like a horrible thing. And if so, I'd love to understand why, because I'm of the other mentality. I'm a big archivist. I love to archive stuff. Yeah, and almost a completionist in that regard, where I try and get everything down, get every single video and every single clip, and try and tell it all in the most clear-cut way possible. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. Hope you have a good rest of the day. It doesn't take long to do a bit of a journal entry. It can take you like 10 minutes. So there's no reason not to. Give it a try. If you don't like it, then stop. No one's forcing you. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Take care, and bye-bye.